Right, good evening, everyone. I say good evening, but I know this is a global webinar, so good morning or good afternoon from wherever you may be joining us. Thank you for joining this webinar called Bringing the Heart, a returning webinar where we aim to give you key information on all that is required for your plans to return home. Now, for most of us in the diaspora, from the minute we leave Jamaica, there is always the desire to one day return home. And certainly for a lot of us who came to the UK, especially those who are defined as the Windrush generation, they came in the 40s and 50s. They often say that they were only going to be in the UK for 5 years and then they would return. Some of them, including members of my family, never went back, but definitely quite a few have returned, including my grandparents. My grandfather came to the UK in the 1950s, followed by my grandmother who came in the 70s, and they returned to Jamaica in 1995, where they lived out their life, and sadly I've lost them. But they certainly enjoyed their return to Jamaica, lived a happy life in Jamaica when they returned. But my grandmother started planning her return from the day she got to the UK, and she bought her house in Jamaica in the 1980s, and returned in 1995. So you can see how long she was preparing that journey to return. When she returned to Jamaica, she took everything with her. She took all her furniture, she took her car, literally even the kitchen that she put in the house in Jamaica was bought in the UK flat pack and assembled. I assembled it actually, so I recall everything, assembling that kitchen in her home in Jamaica. She shipped home everything. So my grandmother meticulously planned her return to Jamaica, and because she was taking home her Jamaican her UK appliances, she converted the electricity in the home to 220 and all the rest of it, and then when she got home, she extended her home and she was happy. Every Friday she went to the Charles Garden Market in Montego Bay, and she completely immersed herself in being back in Jamaica. Her successful return to Jamaica is an example of many other individuals who have made a good return to the country of their birth, and so this webinar is aiming to give you all the information you need as you plan to return home, right? So I hope you will find it very informative and useful. So I am Dr. Kevin Brown. I sit on the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council as the UK North representative, and I'll be moderating this webinar this evening. I'm based in the United Kingdom. I've been here for over 20 years, much longer than I thought I would be. I also had this delusion that I'd be here for 5 years and then I'd be back home, but it never happened. But I still have the aspiration to get back at some point. So I'll definitely be making notes during this webinar as well. And we have a long list of speakers, and I just want to acknowledge the presence of Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, who is the Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and he's responsible for the diaspora, and he'll be our keynote speaker this afternoon. We'll also have opening remarks from His Excellency George Seth Ramocan, who's Jamaica's High Commissioner to the UK, and that will be followed by opening remarks from Nathaniel Peat, who is the UK South representative on the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. Nathaniel is also the chair of Jamaicans Inspired UK. We'll be hearing from one of our partners on this webinar, Integrated Diaspora Services, Nordia Teape, the CEO for integrated diaspora services will also be giving opening remarks and telling you more about the services they provide, which will be helpful to those of you planning to return home. And then we'll be getting into the heart of the webinar, which is technical presentations from a range of speakers. We'll be looking at the topics that I believe are of most concern to you, including crime and safety. And we'll be hearing from Mr. Fitz. He's a Deputy Commissioner in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And then we'll be also looking at property. And for property, we'll be hearing from Mr. Leighton Smith and his colleagues. Leighton is the Chief Representative Officer for the VM Group in the UK. And also, we also have Mr. Khori Hyde and his colleagues as well from Moorland Developments. So they'll be telling you about property and how to finance property in Jamaica. If you want to hear more about shipping your items home and also the customs requirements, we have Miss Beverly Johnson, CEO and Managing Director for JLB International Limited. And for those of you who may be concerned about health and social care in Jamaica, we have Andrene Lewis-Longwe, Managing Director for Break Barriers Care in Hands Jamaica Limited, who will be telling you about her services. And for a more sort of general understanding of what it's like to live and work in Jamaica, we are expecting to hear from Percival Latouche. He's also a long-standing returning resident, went back to Jamaica many years ago, and he's the president of the Jamaica Association for the Resettlement of Returning Residents. So, we have quite a webinar lined up for you with a range of speakers, and I hope that you will all find it very informative. Now, if you have a comment or a question, and we really want this to be interactive, please utilize the chat room. I will try and put as many questions to you as possible. I'll try and put as many questions from you to the panel. Or any comments, please mute your microphones. And if the technical team could help me with that, I would really appreciate it. I'd also like to further acknowledge members of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. I can see, for example, Mrs. Angela Rose Howell, former Deputy High Commissioner to the UK and now a Director for Diaspora, Consular and Protocol Affairs in the Ministry. I want to acknowledge her and welcome her to our webinar. I'm sure the other colleagues of hers that are on the webinar. So I just want to welcome the entire ministry team, the foreign ministry team, and I will acknowledge you as soon as I know who's on here with the minister. But I certainly can see Mrs. Howell is on here as well. So let's get into it and start our webinar. The High Commissioner, George Seth Ramocan, he's the 13th High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. He started his role in 2016, but he's also the non-resident ambassador to 6 countries, namely Ireland, the Republic of Finland, the Republic of Cyprus, and as well as the kingdoms of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Mr. Seth George Ramocan served as a Consul General of Jamaica in Toronto from 2009 to 2014. And during his tenure, Mr. Ramocan was appointed Dean of the Caribbean Consular Corps. The High Commissioner is an ordained pastor. He's a counseling psychologist, entrepreneur, and a public servant. He's a former government senator and a parish councillor, and he has served on the he has served as the executive director of the Jamaica Institute for Political Education. Our High Commissioner is married to distinguished educator Dr. Lola Bonita, and he is the father of 4 children. So let us have opening remarks from His Excellency George Seth Ramocan.
My fellow Jamaicans, I am extremely pleased to join you this evening as we host this important webinar titled Bringing the Heart Back Home, which is aimed at providing information to the diaspora on what is required to return home to Jamaica. I must commend the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, UK representatives, who collaborated with a number of organizations, the Integrated Diaspora Services Limited, the Jamaicans Inspired UK, and their partners, the Gleaner, Victoria Mutual Group, and Moorland Development, for organizing this event. As you may know, the government of Jamaica has embarked on a very exciting journey of nation building with several initiatives and opportunities for our nationals overseas to participate in Jamaica's development. This exciting journey is called Vision 2030 Jamaica, which Jamaica is earmarked to become a developed country, a place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business, and of course to invest and to retire. And of course, this is the whole dream that Jamaica is pursuing. Already, it is evident and visible to everyone that Jamaica has made significant strides towards becoming a developed country. For returning residents, the government of Jamaica has made provisions to allow for duty-free importation of their personal and household effects, as well as tools of trade. The Jamaica Customs Agency has simplified the process by making it possible for returning residents to apply for their import tax waiver online. A video giving step-by-step guidance to the process is also on the Jamaica Customs Agency website. The Returning Residents Information Guide that can be found on the Jamaica High Commission's website also gives you information on how the process of returning residency is conducted. The government of Jamaica has also made much progress in ensuring the safety of its citizens and returning residents. To this end, the security forces have developed strategies and guidelines such as the Safety and Security Handbook, which can be found on the mission's website. I welcome tonight's webinar as it seeks to enhance and further articulate the government's initiatives, while at the same time providing much needed support to people who may not be computer savvy or who may feel a bit intimidated by the process. The webinar is designed to provide very practical information and advice to help potential returnees navigate their reintegration to living in Jamaica. In closing, I take this opportunity to congratulate the prospective returnees on taking this initiative and for joining us in this seminar, which really is all about reconnecting with our homeland, Jamaica, land we love. To the organizers, I say thank you for inviting me to participate in this webinar, and I wish you a very successful event.
Thank you, High Commissioner. So the High Commissioner could not be with us this evening in person, but he sent his opening remarks via pre-recorded video, giving you some very important information there in terms of being able to access information you need to return to Jamaica from the High Commission's website. So do bear that in mind as well. And of course, the High Commissioner in London stands ready to answer any questions you may have as well with respect to returning home. All right, so our next speaker is going to be Nathaniel Peat. He's going to be bringing opening remarks. Nathaniel is the elected representative for the UK South on the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. The Global Jamaica Diaspora Council is a consultative body that sits within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and is chaired by the Minister of State responsible for the diaspora, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell. Nathaniel is also a social entrepreneur and an international motivational speaker. He's founder of the nonprofit organization, The Safety Box, which uses grassroots methods to interrupt violent behavior, build entrepreneurship, and foster achievement in young people. He is a patron to the Ernest & Young Foundation and is also a fellow of St. George's House Society of Leadership Fellows at Windsor Castle. Nathaniel was featured in Forbes magazine, and he was made an honorary fellow of Brunel University. He's currently the elected chairman of the Brunel Business School. So let's hear from Nathaniel Peat.
Good evening, good night, good day. I first want to greet the Honorable Senator Leslie Campbell from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also thanking His Excellency, his High Commissioner, that is George Seth Ramocan, for his greetings this evening. Greeting the co-founders also of IDS, Integrated Diaspora Services, and all fellow Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica. Well, what an occasion. We need to put our hands together for this seminar, because I'm telling you, there are so many people around the world that have struggled in their efforts to move back home, send things back, do things in Jamaica. And, for too long, members of the diaspora have been frustrated, waiting in lines,
Nathaniel,
the TRN numbers.
Sorry, Nathaniel, we can't see you. Are you able to turn on your camera? And
yeah, my camera is on. My camera is on.
Technical team, is he on the spotlight? I'm seeing myself instead of Nathaniel.
I'm on. Can you hear me? Can I just confirm you can hear me? All right, good. Well, I'm hoping that the motivation on my voice can light up. Even though you can't see me, I want you to hear me. All right. Remember this, our voices matter, right? Our life is important, and our story is really something that we oftentimes as Jamaicans tell. And as I was saying before, for too long, Jamaicans have struggled. Diaspora have struggled with issues of waiting in lines for TRN numbers. They have struggled with NIS numbers. They've been having issues with shipping. There's been issues around funeral arrangements. There's issues with approvals, plans, and so forth. And this is just a fantastic initiative which has birthed from a Jamaican company, in fact. And as the chairman of Jamaicans Inspired, we partnered with IDS at the inception. And as a global Jamaica Diaspora Council representatives in the United Kingdom, myself and Dr. Brown said that we had to do this seminar to ensure that people have an understanding of what IDS offers and to give them an opportunity to streamline the processes. Within this seminar, we're hoping that there is going to be a lot of growth and knowledge impartation. It is with knowledge that you are going to assist yourself in moving back to the island. And with this business-centric concierge service, which is offered with IDS, to help the diaspora to conduct the transactions that they so often want to do, it is about removing the impractical nature that many individuals face, whether that be trying to get citizenship, whether that be trying to correct a birth certificate on, a grandparent that's died. It is to streamline that process. And so Integrated Diaspora Services is effectively a one-stop shop to do business in Jamaica, to connect and to process all of a smoother transaction that you would have in Jamaica. They offer a range of different services. It is not just about relocation back into the island, but they do things such as medication purchases, also distribution of medical equipment, where you're speaking about elderly care, services that are required for, you know, your elders that are moving back to Jamaica, whether that be death care services or legal transactions or even registration or permits, renewals, tuition, you know, related transactions, or even shipping and logistic procurement and branding, registering a company or property related activities with their partners. They have managed to put this together. This is a time to take out your pens and to take out your paper. I want you to now think about this in a practical way of getting the information you need to settle in Jamaica, to go back to Jamaica, to do business with Jamaica. This is about now the investment. How are you going to invest in a stock exchange if you don't know how? When you're hearing the news come out from Forbes or from another medium, which is saying that Jamaica's stock exchange is one of the fastest growing junior stock exchanges in the world. In 2018, 2019, it was the top in the world. And it is you finding out how to do this. Oftentimes, when you are not informed, you are not confident. And this is about removing that lack of knowledge so that you then can become confident with your move back to Jamaica, or whether you want to set up property there. This is the opportunity, the prime opportunity for you to do that. This is why Jamaicans Inspired, as well as the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, is proud to be sponsoring this event with our efforts to try to ensure that the diaspora has some information about how they can return to Jamaica. Where I've had individuals of my own family that have returned, I have put them onto ideas, and they have reported personally back to me that the service has been exceptional. I've heard from other people as well that this service is really something which is needed. So please do write with your pens. They have a statement which is like this. It says this: those who read are the ones that lead. Let us lead the way as we write down the notes from this seminar and ensure that we have all of the mechanisms required with no excuse, no complaints, but a streamlined process utilizing a service like IDS. Please be well informed from the distinguished panel that we have. Take your notes and ensure that you are tuned in well so that you can focus your mind like a magnifying glass in front of the sun. And when that power of that focus comes in to the effort that you want, it will burn the paper beneath. With that same effort, I want you to focus on getting back home, investing in the country, supporting Jamaica, and helping the development goals of Jamaica. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you, Nathaniel, for that very energetic speech and opening remarks, and also, you know, for highlighting the services provided by one of our partners, Integrated Diaspora Services. We're going to actually hear from that company now as we ask the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer for Integrated Diaspora Services, Ms. Nordia Teape, to tell you more about that organization. We have certainly partnered with them along with Jamaicans Inspired UK to put this on for you. After Ms. Teape, we will be hearing from our keynote speaker, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell. So Ms. Teape, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed as I greet you on behalf of the Integrated Diaspora Services IDS team. I pause to express sincere appreciation for the presence of the State Minister, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, His Excellency George Seth Ramocan in his absence, Mr. Nathaniel Peat, Dr. Kevin Brown, our distinguished speakers, sponsors, and partners. What a beautiful day it is, don't it? Integrated Diaspora Services, IDS, is a registered Jamaican limited liability company that focuses primarily on providing solutions to Jamaicans who reside overseas. In the context of this event, we provide the hand-holding and on-island support needed in making the journey back home as seamless as possible. Over the past year, we have connected and provided services to members of the diaspora in the Middle East, Asia and the Pacific region, Europe, the Caribbean, the UK, US, Canada, and Africa, just to name a few. Through our partnerships, we have assisted our clients with various government transactions, such as acquiring their tax registration numbers, or what we call the TRN, renewal of driver's licenses, business registration, land and title matters, shipping and logistics, and property and real estate matters, just to name a few. And we are delighted to again have an opportunity to let you, our audience, know of this solution available to you in Jamaica. As a sweetener, we'll be physically present in the United States from the 12th of March to April 26, covering Atlanta, Hartford. Hope everybody have their pens now. Atlanta, Hartford, Connecticut, Fort Lauderdale, and New York. And in July, guess what? God's willing, we'll be in the United Kingdom to connect with and serve you, the diaspora. IDS is very passionate and committed to the strengthening of relations across all spaces. So let us help you today. Let's start that conversation to accomplish all the things you need to in Jamaica in a trusted environment as you prepare to return home. Our contact information can be found in the chat, and we're looking forward to talking with you about this journey. Have an awesome evening, everyone.
Thank you, Nordia. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, there you have it with our opening remarks. I want to thank all our speakers. And now we're going to hear from our keynote speaker, Senator Leslie Campbell. Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell is currently the Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, responsible for the diaspora. He's a trained barrister and attorney at law and has been practicing in Jamaica since 1994. His area of specialty in law is insurance. Minister Campbell has served as a member of the Council of the Jamaican Bar Association and was a former president of the Advocates Association of Jamaica. Minister Campbell also served on several other boards, such as chairman of the National Health Fund, member of the board of Petrojam Limited, Southeast Regional Health Authority, the Firearms Licensing Authority, and many more. He was elected as Member of Parliament for Northeast St. Catherine in 2016, where he served until August 2020, the latter part of which he served as Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Dr. Kevin Brown, our moderator and team lead, Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. Mr. Fitz Bailey, Deputy Commissioner of Police. Ms. Beverly Johnson, CEO and Managing Director of JLB International Limited. Ms. Andrene Longway, Managing Director of Break Barriers. Mr. Khori Hyde, Moorland Development Chief Representative. Mr. Leighton Smith, Chief Representative of the VM Group. Mr. Percy Latouche, President of the Returning Residents Association. Heads of other returning residents organization and members of the diaspora. Fellow Jamaicans, friends of Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all, or good evening, as the case may I know for Dr. Brown. He's now enjoying his evening, and for Nathaniel, Mr. Peat, I know he's enjoying his evening. On behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the team from the ministry, as well as the rest of the Jamaican family here, please accept our warmest greetings. I'm very pleased to join you on this very important occasion on the various services offered by departments and agencies of government that are of relevance to Jamaicans in the diaspora, and particularly to returning residents. In this context, I extend appreciation to Dr. Kevin Brown, team lead of the Partnership Working Group of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, for this initiative, which is being staged in collaboration with International Diaspora Services. Let me acknowledge and appreciate the productive advocacy and collaboration of the returning residents groups with the government of Jamaica and its various agencies. Through dialogue and open exchange, we have been able to develop a better understanding of the issues and manage to forge new and innovative solutions to some of the more enduring problems. We have come a long way from the establishment of the Returning Residents Unit in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and the publication of the first Returning Resident Charter in 1993, to the establishment of a Department of Diaspora Affairs. The changing institutional arrangements and improvements in the service delivery by the government have been implemented in response to important feedback from members of the diaspora individually and collectively, and with returned residents. We also acknowledge the long-standing support of private sector partners and media partners such as the Gleaner and Power 106, which have been invaluable in disseminating information to the public. I must acknowledge the creditable contributions of several ministries, departments, and agencies which continue to serve returning residents and develop high standards of service. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the germane developments in recent times has been the establishment of the Returning Residents Task Force under the chairmanship of my colleague, former Minister of State, Senator the Honorable Pernell Charles, as he then was. As you are aware, the task force was started in 2018 and is comprised of the representatives from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Jamaica Customs Agency, the Ministry of National Security, and heads of the Returning Residents Association. It has since led to some important outcomes, including those relating to security, safety, and customs facilitation. For a number of reasons, there was a hiatus in the meetings of the task force, but I'm happy to indicate that these meetings have resumed, with the first being held under my chairmanship in December 2021. The continued relevance of the work of the task force is beyond question, as we work together to identify solutions to common challenges. We value the contributions that have been made and continue to be made by returned residents, as well as members of the diaspora to various sectors. Collectively, you have been active participants in consultations with the government on the development of the draft National Diaspora Policy, which is intended to set the framework for diaspora engagement to support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as Jamaica's long-term development plan, Jamaica Vision 2030. The policy is now in the final stages of the preparation, and we are working assiduously for it to be placed before Cabinet for approval as a white paper. The policy is grounded in the recognition that Jamaicans, whether at home or overseas, are a valuable resource in consolidating our national development. It is therefore incumbent upon us to elaborate strategies to harness this capital for achieving real improvement in the quality of life for all Jamaicans. I implore you to continue to be actively engaged and to continue contributing how and where you can. Fellow Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica, this webinar represents my first public address to the diaspora in the UK and coincides with Jamaica's 60 independence celebrations. These celebrations will involve the Jamaican High Commission, which I'm sure has already engaged members of the diaspora in planning of the events to mark this Diamond Jubilee. This webinar also gives me the opportunity to tell you about Jamaica's 60th Diaspora Conference, which will be hosted under the theme, Reigniting a Nation. And that will be held between June 14 and 16 at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, located on the beautiful waterfront in downtown Kingston. This conference was originally scheduled to have been hosted last year, but had to be postponed as a result of the pandemic. Some of you may recall that we convened the first ever virtual Diaspora Sustainability Symposium in place of the conference, which was held with great success. We have commenced the planning for Jamaica's 60th Diaspora Conference, and the program and content will be elaborated with inputs from the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, our missions overseas, as well as the wider diaspora. This, of course, reflects the government's commitment to ensuring that the conference truly reflects the interest of the diaspora through the usual consultative process. Returning residents are an important part of that constituency, and your contribution is anticipated. Ladies and gentlemen, meetings of this kind are integral to promoting a common understanding of the issues and challenges being faced, not only by Jamaican diaspora, but also by returned residents at home. I expect us to have a very informative meeting, which will also allow you to interface directly with the presenters, who are all experts in their respective fields. Our journey has been productive, and we will be able to build on successes already achieved by the task force, such as the publication of the Returning Residents Safety and Security Handbook, the recirculation of the Returning Residents Information Guide, the streamlining and modernization of processes at customs for returning residents, and the appointment of community safety and security officers within the police force to deal with matters specific to returning residents in each parish. In closing, I reaffirm the government's commitment to engaging constructively with you and thank the Partnership Working Group and the Integrated Diaspora Services for their collaboration in staging this event. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you for your keynote address and for highlighting all the important issues around returning to Jamaica, including, as you say, the handbook that was the safety handbook that was written by the Jamaican Constabulary Force, along with the several other initiatives being undertaken by the government of Jamaica. Thank you also for reminding everyone who is here about the upcoming Diaspora conference that will be held in Jamaica from the 14th to the 16th of June. It will be a hybrid conference, and more information about the conference will be released in timely fashion in the days and weeks ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from Senator Campbell. I just want to remind everyone that you have your own minister within the government of Jamaica. You've just heard from him, so do familiarize yourself with his name. And I'm sure at some point he has promised me that he will be visiting the United Kingdom. So I'm holding him to his promise, and we look forward to receiving him in the United Kingdom in the coming months. So thank you again, Senator, and thanks to your team in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Not sure how long the minister will be with us today, but if you have any burning questions that you'd like to ask, please put them in the chat room. I'm sure the minister will be more than happy to answer them. I can see a few questions coming in. Some of them are related to services and information required to return home. We'll take a few of them very quickly, and then we will hear from our next speaker, who is Mrs. Andrene Longmore. So I think one question I have here, and maybe this one, don't know who on the panel wants to take it, but it's one that we don't often hear, so I'm going to go for it. It says, can someone please give us some information on affordable health insurance? So I don't know who wants to take that. Andrene, Nordia, anyone on the panel, any information on affordable health insurance in Jamaica?
Dr. Brown, that one may take a consultation, because there's some information we'll need from the person, because there are lots of factors that determine your monthly premium, right? And so on. So if it's okay, we'd ask that person just to give us a call or put their contact number directly to myself or one of the IDS team members or to Dr. Brown, and we'll definitely call you and speak some more on that.
Okay. Minister, I can see a couple of questions coming in. So before you leave us, I'll put them to you. This one is coming from Beverly Johnson. She's asking, Minister, are you aware of the long-winded process for returnees as it relates to high port fees, and detention fees? I don't know if you can speak to that, but there seems to be concerns that the process to clear property from the war.
The customs people address it.
Dr. Brown, regrettably, matters like demurrage and detention fees, those are, the demurrage is something which is related to the time that the shipping company has your cargo. And if you have not done your pre-planning and you're there, because I think they allow you like a 7-day window. And if you haven't cleared within that time, certainly, particularly now with containers being at a premium, they will charge you for your overstaying your time on the wharf with that container. In relation to the port fees and so on, I can't speak to those specifically, but those would rest with the Minister of Finance through the customs agency. And I must confess, I don't know personally what they are like, but I would imagine that they compare favorably with port fees generally in the region. But if anyone knows of any excessive charges, then certainly this is the time to speak to what they are. And then, of course, we will raise the issues with the customs agency and have them brought in line, if that is the case, if they deem them unreasonable or excessive. But I can hazard a guess to say that they compare favorably with the regional charges.
Right. So Beverly, I know you are in the shippings, and in fact you're down to speak later on. But yes, I'll allow you to reply to the minister very briefly. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good day, Minister. The question was really about the connectivity of the charges. So the returning residents has presented their documentation to the Customs Department. That process of processing takes very long, whilst the port storage fees rises and the container demurrage charges rises. I'm just wondering if the government can consider a timeline in which the Jamaica Customs Department processes these documents so that the customer on the receiving end, the returnee, is not levied with these charges. So if the Customs Department takes a very long process to consent to the returnee being eligible for the free customs duties, then they end up paying it back in storage and demurrage because of the long process of customs. So I'm trying to see, like everywhere else, if the Jamaican Customs Department could look at a timeline in which it is mandated that the customs returning resident unit actually processes the customer's documentation so that they can clear their containers efficiently and not be levied with these charges. And as you rightly said, the transport sector, the carriers, are now charging up to US $100 per day for demurrage. If you consider that it can take up to 3 weeks and more for that container to be cleared, that comes into the thousands of dollars. So Indeed. That could be resolved if the Customs Department kind of had a fixed time period in which to process.
Well, Mrs. Johnson Green, what I know has happened is that what the customs agency has tried to do is to make have a one-stop shop operation, and they've introduced some new processes which are going to make it much. The Asacuda system, which should make it a lot easier. But of course, these things take some time. And certainly is one of the things that we ought to be talking about to make the processes more efficient. So I certainly will take that on board and we'll have the discussion with the customs agency.
Thank you, Minister. One other quick one, Minister, and thank you, Beverly, as well. There are a couple of questions coming in, Minister, and I'm just going to summarize them. Around the question of cost of living on the island and inflation. I don't know if you can speak to what government measures are being taken to rein in inflation. I know it's a global problem, but if you could speak to the Jamaican experience around controlling inflation and high cost of living.
Sorry, the Bank of Jamaica is the entity which is charged with controlling inflation now. It's been made separate and apart from the central government. So what it does, it's given a mandate to manage the money supply and all the other things which have to be put in the mix. And it is told that it must keep inflation within the 4 to 6% band. And if it is going outside of that, then it has to use the tools which are available to them to rein that in. You will appreciate that, like in the last 2 weeks, the Bank of Jamaica has used interest rates to try and control that inflation, because it's running somewhere in the region of 10, 11%, which is outside the band which they have been given. So they will always, they'll be fighting on all fronts. But do understand that a lot is happening on the international sphere now, which, take for instance, the freight charges, because of all that is happening beyond our control. Whereas a 40-foot container out of, say, China would cost us $4,000. That is running close to $18,000, $19,000 now. So if you just think of a few pallets of whatever it is that you put in that container, the price per unit of that commodity is just gone over the top. The same thing is happening with the international wheat prices, and I can tell you that it is even going to be more seriously impacted because of what is happening between Ukraine and Russia. You have to recall that that Ukraine is the 10th largest producer of wheat, and so that it does impact the price of what is happening in the international arena. And those are things which are going to impact us on whether we like it or not. I mean, because Jamaica is such an import-dependent country, those prices going up and going through the roof are certainly going to impact on our prices and ultimately the inflation figures. So it is difficult for me to, I'm not a trained economist and I wouldn't attempt to, but the people at the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the people at they must be wringing their hands now and trying to crunch the numbers and to see how best to keep those. But of course, it is going to take some effort on the part of people who are here to do what we can locally. For instance, we have to reduce the size of the import bill. We have to stop importing in the significant amounts that we have, things like red peas and meats and that kind of thing. So those are things areas where we can help. Stop the import and fruits and vegetables. We have enough land but of course there are a whole series of other things. But in the short term, I think we have to encourage our people to do what they can locally to take the pressure off the demand for US dollars or related currencies.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I know I can see a few more questions coming in. We might not be able to put all of them to the Minister at this point. I don't know how long Minister will stay with us. We might be able to field some more questions to him as the webinar progresses. But one last one, Minister, Dr. Sylvanus Thompson from Canada. He's thanking you for your presentation and also asking if you could provide an update on the students, Jamaican students in the Ukraine.
Right. Well, I'm very happy to say that they are presently in Poland That's the significant. I think 24 of them. They are being hosted by our representative, Miss Seeley, out of our Berlin facility mission. And the government has, with the approval of cabinet, taken the decision that we will finance, insofar as we can, their return to Jamaica. And already I know the Prime Minister has paid into a special account from his charitable foundation, somewhere in the region of $1.8 million. And the leader of the opposition has communicated with me, indicating to that he's has raised from a community of friends a figure of, I think it is 1.58 million. So we have upwards of $3 million, which has been pledged or already deposited to the account to deal with those students. Of course, I know members of the diaspora are pretty concerned, but we are doing everything possible. Because just before I came into this meeting, there was a young lady who had found herself on the Polish, on the Romania side. We have asked a former commissioner, EU commissioner, to facilitate her. So it's looking fairly good for our people so far. But of course, you have to understand, you may find that you have people there who just don't want to leave. So whereas you'll hear reports of how not assisting people, let me just debunk that now. At a certain time, perhaps upwards of 2 weeks ago, the ministry, through its normal channels, indicated to these folks, you should start making preparations to leave. And of course, nobody took up the ministry on the offers which were made then. And it's only when the salvos were being discharged that it became a real crisis situation. And of course, it is really regrettable that up to 24 hours ago, we had some of our students who were walking somewhere in the region of 3.8 kilometers. No, they had to walk 38 kilometers. Which took them somewhere in the region of 10 hours. And at the best of times, walking under those conditions is not easy. But we're very happy to report that they are now safe and they have crossed the border.
All right. Well, Minister, I want to thank you for your indulgence in taking those questions. If you're still with us, if you're still with us later in the webinar, we will put more questions to you, but we must press on. So I do crave the patience of our participants. I know there are some more questions there, but if the minister stays with us, we will definitely put them to him. But we want to just give the other speakers a chance as well. So, next up, we're going to just have a quick video from IDS, and then after that, we're going to be hearing from Mrs. Andrene Lewis-Longwe. She'll be talking to you about health and social care in Jamaica and telling you more about her company, Break Barriers Jamaica Limited. But first up, let's hear from IDS.
Jamaica, land we love, full of so many beautiful places, memories, people. So rich in culture, resources, and opportunities that it is more than enough to want to bring the heart back home. So many of us have left our homeland seeking new opportunities and exploration of the world. And now, many of us in the diaspora are trying to find ways to show our love for our homeland and those we left behind. The need of the Jamaican diaspora that has inspired the creation of our company, Integrated Diaspora Services Limited. We help bridge the gap between what is and what could be for many Jamaicans living and working abroad. We provide access to the knowledge and support they need to conduct business transactions in Jamaica from anywhere in the world. Our vision is to bring the hearts back home for the betterment of our homeland, Jamaica. Through our worldwide service providers and partnerships, we provide care services that are designed to meet the many needs of the diaspora, spanning from their commercial and regulatory needs to the very personal and intimate needs of their families back home. That is why
United States chooses IDS.
Ni hao, Jungo chinza IDS.
United Kingdom chooses IDS.
The Caribbean chooses IDS.
Kazakhstan, IDS Hyde. Afrika inachagua mawazo ili kuleta uzalendo.
Kenya tunachagua IDS.
Canada chooses IDS
because it brings our hearts home.
Let us help you bring your heart back home to Jamaica in the ways that matter most, both to you and your loved ones.
Heart back home to the things I know, to the place I know. Heart back.
Integrated Diaspora Services. You heard from their CEO earlier, Nordia Teape. So now we're going to move on to our next speaker, Mrs. Andrene Lewis-Longwe. Andrene is a health and social sector leader with a demonstrated history of working in the industry of health and social care for many years. She's worked as a care assistant, care support worker, and now she is the owner and managing director at Break Barriers in Nottingham. But also recently she opened up a branch of her company in Jamaica called Break Barriers Care in Hands Jamaica Limited, where she's providing domiciliary and social care services to Jamaicans on the island, especially returning residents. So she has a track record of providing quality service. Her company in the UK, Break Barriers Limited, is rated as outstanding by the Care Quality Commission. So Andrene, welcome to our webinar. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. I know in the UK it's night, but in Jamaica you're experiencing nice sunshine. And for the rest of the world, whatever the climate, thank you, welcome, and just a few minutes of your ear. Before I do that, I just want to acknowledge our senator, who I had the privilege of meeting in person. Thank you for your kind words, Senator. And also to acknowledge our His Excellency George Seth in absence, and also to the keynote speakers who went before me, and to the keynote speakers who will be coming after me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, whatever capacity you're here from, thanks, and I look forward to hearing from you and taking, your views. So this evening, I'm just here to tell you about Break Barriers Care in Hands. What is Break Barriers Care in Hands? Who we are and what we are about. And it is simple. We are here to offer choice and control to our residents who are already living on the island, or to our returning residents, or people who are planning on returning, or if you have your granny, your papas, your mamas, your aunties, your uncles, whoever they are, if they're living on the island and you want to give them choice and control, that is what Break Barriers is about. So as Kevin mentioned, that we have been operating in the UK, out of the UK, and in 2020, when everybody else was talking about Corona, I decided to take the project to Jamaica because I believe it's something that is well needed. On the island of Jamaica, you will find the alternative, which is you'll find care homes, but we're saying we want to give our elderly a choice of staying at home when that time comes. If you and I, we've lived abroad and we've taken the time out to build those homes. We've heard other keynote speaker, Kevin, mention his family. You take years to build that home. At the end of that time, why is it that you want to be ripped out of the home and to be placed with people that you wouldn't decide to live with if you had a choice? So this is where Break Barrier Care Hands come in. We're saying, allow us to come into your space to provide personalized services. So whether it's home care, domiciliary care, or the beautiful island of Jamaica, plenty of our elderly are trapped in this one room when you have the beautiful Caribbean seas. We are saying, allow us to come in and to tailor that service to suit your needs or your family's needs. Most of us would have already been accustomed to home care or alternative services living overseas. We are saying we are taking this service to Jamaica. What Break Barrier has done, we have, as an outstanding rated organization here in the UK, our policies, our procedures, everything that makes us outstanding here in Jamaica, we've just lifted and we've planted it in Jamaica, and we have tailored it to meet the environment out there. We have worked with people from all over the island since we started in 2000 and 2020. We've covered the St. Elizabeth area. We're in Mandeville, we're in Manchester, we're in Portmore, we're in Spanish Town, we're in St. Thomas, and we are all over the island. All we've managed to do this, we're working in collaboration with the Heart Academy. I'm a product of the Heart Academy. I went there, so I know good things can come out of the Heart Academy. So we have a collaboration with them where they source us the staff, and then we are placing the staff as close as possible to the proximity of the customer's home. And then that's how we are able to provide those services. Why home care? It's simple, giving you an opportunity to have choice and control in the confined space of your home. Give us a call today. We have proven track records here in the UK and on the island of Jamaica. If you look on our social media pages, you'll see where our customers are interacting with us. The family members are interacting with us, and they speak about the service that they have already engage with or engaging with from Break Barriers Caring Hands. So that's who we are, and it's just simple choice and control within the confined spaces of your home, giving you an alternative. We know that nursing home has its place, but we're saying we're giving you the choice of remaining at home while we provide those all vital services to you. The staff are trained from a British standard. So you know that the social media is allowing us to do so many things. So the staff are trained from a British standard. Anything that is within gap, they come out of the Heart Academy. They do possess some training. Anything that is a gap or a miss, then we continue to provide those services. I am frequent on the island 3 times, 4 times a year, whatever it takes to work personally with the customer and to continue to develop the team out there to get to the standard to which they need to be. So Break Barriers Caring Hands is your alternative on the island of Jamaica. Hook us up today and you will not regret it.
Right. Thank you, Andrene. So Andrene, how can one contact you? What are the contact details? How can they find you?
So the contact
online
details for Break Barriers Caring Hands, just a second. I'm going to drop it in the chat below.
Yes, you can drop it in the chat room. Yes.
It will be dropped there, but you can call us on 876-665-6396, or on all social media platforms, it's at Break Barriers CH. And we've got a website. You can go on our website. It's www.breakbarriers.com.jm. So hook us up, give us a call. We'll drop it in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrene. Yes, I can see the numbers been placed in the chat room as well. There's a question. Someone is asking, this is from C. Taylor. Does Jamaica have the equivalent of the Care Quality Commission that regulates a company like yours in Jamaica?
So the answer is no. So since I've been on the island, I've been working in conjunction with the Ministry of Health to try and get these regulations in. There's regulation for care homes, but nothing for home care. But rest assured, the standards on which we operate here in the UK, the name that we've built for ourselves in the UK is the name that we've taken on the island of Jamaica. And that's the same way we carry out our services on the island.
Okay, and also, Andrene, can you give some examples of the services? So for example, I guess, could it be as basic as keeping one's home clean? And then as far as, taking care of one's hygiene needs, what are the range of the services?
Very much so, Kevin. Thanks for asking that question. Very much so. So it's whatever your need is. So we come in with, we call the care plan, and we design that services for you. We've had people who've had one-off service. We've had people that has daily service. We have people that has 24-hour service. That means somebody's in the home all the time. So whatever the service requirement that you need is what we are tailoring it to. That's the beauty of home care. It's designed for you and with you.
Okay, all right. So Andrene will be on the call. So, she'll be on the webinar throughout. So keep your questions coming in if you have any. I know there was a question around, it's pretty similar to the one I asked you earlier regarding, the vetting of your company and so on. But as you say, you're operating to the British standards under the Care Quality Commission. You're carrying the same standards with you to Jamaica. And so I hope that answers the question from Denise. And also I should highlight that Minister Campbell was at your launch event as well when you set up the company in Jamaica. Right, so I know, and this is very important because I know that there are a number of returnees who go back after they've retired, and my grandmother being an example, she eventually needed quite a bit of care as well as she aged. And I even have an aunt now who has someone who lives with her as her carer. So definitely care needs are important to consider for those of you who might be choosing to return, at an older age, let's put it that way, or might have specific health needs. Okay, so let's.
I can see a question from Doreen Mackenzie. How does payment work? And everything it goes through the bank. When we set up with you, you will be given the information where everything goes through the bank. So if you're a relative overseas and you want to fund your family member on the island of Jamaica, everything will be set up with you, and then you can pay directly to the account. We send you regular updates on your family members, or you can check it out. We use the platforms that we're using now to maintain those relationships.
Okay, all right, perfect. So let's press on. Thank you very much, Andrene. As I said to everyone, Andrene will still be here, so just keep your questions coming in the chat room. But let's move on to the next speaker. Now, one of the key things that we have to consider when we look at returning home is somewhere to live, property. And as I said, my grandmother, when she returned in '95, she had bought the house in the '80s. So and then she rented it out until she was ready to go home. So we're gonna go to property next. And for property, we have two companies that will be speaking. We will start with the Victoria Mutual Group, and they'll be talking primarily about how to finance property and also other aspects as well. And then in terms of whether you choose to buy a property or construct a property, we'll be hearing from Khori Hyde, representing Moorland's developments, who will be telling you more about the actual construction of a home or actually buying a home within a development. So, hopefully you'll get enough information there to start planning your dream home in Jamaica. So we're going to start with the VM group, and I'm just going to introduce Leighton Smith. He's the Chief Representative Officer for the Victoria Mutual Group overseas offices. He has over 20 years of experience in the field of marketing and sales, business development, operations management, and retail banking. And Leighton and his team at Victoria Mutual in the UK have been certainly friends of the diaspora for many years, and it's a well-known company in the UK and certainly across the diaspora regions globally. So I want to welcome Leighton and his team to the webinar. The floor is now open to you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I'm hoping everyone can see the presentation. Yes? Can you see my screen? Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Brown, Master of Ceremony, and also the UK North representative for the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Nathaniel Peat, who is a UK South representative of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, Nordia Teape, and I see her team as well from IDS, partners in this initiative. Certainly want to thank you for this opportunity. My fellow presenters and also other distinguished guests who are attending, ladies and gentlemen, good evening or good morning, wherever you are. So our presentation this evening is going to be pretty quick because we're talking about returning home. So the presenters this evening will be myself, as been introduced, the Chief Representative Officer for VM in the Diaspora. Joining me is Rory O'Harris, who is our Business Development Officer for the Building Society here in the UK. And also joining us in the presentation is Leslie Walker, who's a wealth advisor, because a lot of returning residents, it's important when it comes to wealth creation and also benefiting from how it is that you have put aside funds to assist you when you're living out in Jamaica. That is critical. So as was indicated in the presentation, there's a dilemma when it comes to the diaspora. Why? Because home is where the heart is. That's only natural. And we're torn between this new life that we have versus the desire to go home. Dr. Brown spoke of him being here, spoke of it earlier. He said he's here 20 years and he only came for 5. But, the decision or dilemma of getting back, it's critical, because do you go get on the property ladder where you are, or do you get on the property ladder back in Jamaica? And it's important and it's critical because 5-6 years ago, you were talking about properties that are 20 million. Now, if it is you're trying to think of buying a home in Jamaica, think north of 35, 40 million, right? So where you are or who you are is critical to what you do. Are you a student, for example? Are you here for a number of years and you're going to work and go back? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have children? Are you close to retirement? The answers to each of these questions will determine your approach and the planning process to returning home. What is necessary? As with anything else, you have to plan and prepare. Timing has an impact on your costs. There's a regulatory considerations. The State Minister spoke about that. You heard it in our High Commissioner's speech in terms of the availability of information when it comes to the qualifying requirements, government allowances. If you want to think of a motor vehicle when you're going back home, housing, definitely, that's us. And also your banking relationships, again, that is us, that is key. To think too long about doing a thing often becomes its undoing. And therefore, it has to be a well-orchestrated plan. So you have to think about your housing arrangements, the taxes, the income down the line, the pension and the wealth annuity payments, as we spoke about. So when it comes to housing, where you're going to live, it is important. And we can't reiterate and we can't repeat and we can't shout it out to a bullhorn enough. It's important that you investigate. A lot of times we've come across Jamaicans who they have been here for quite some time, and the nostalgia, the thought that they have of the fond memories of the community and the district that they left behind, that is what they still envision. And when they go back, they're shocked because Jamaica has far well advanced beyond that. So it's important that you visit. Where you left, the area you left is not the same. Safety is important. Again, there are things that we often think of differently. So we have to consider accessibility to roads, water, electricity. Yes, all those things are in Jamaica, but then what do you want? Do you want to go into urban life or do you want to go to rural Jamaica? You have to think about those things. Am I going to be close to medical facilities? If it is that I have ailments here, when I go back, am I able to get close to a doctor facility? Am I able to get close to a supermarket or a market or other amenities? We have to think about those things, especially when some persons decide to construct. We have seen cases where persons have constructed $20, $30, $40 million properties, and they have constructed them in a community that is a rural district. And then sometimes if they have to return back to the UK, they want to sell the property and they can't fetch the cost or the amount of funds that they spent for that property. So you have to think along those lines. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Rory O'Harris, who is going to highlight for you what is the difference between, what we look for if you want a mortgage. Rory? Go ahead and unmute Rory.
Thank you. Night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Smith. There are two critical points that we encourage our prospective clients to look at when considering to utilize a mortgage in such a purchase of, a property, especially when it comes on to returning to Jamaica. The two key factors we look at is certainly your ability to pay and attitude towards that. And your ability to pay is definitely look on where you are in the life cycle. As Mr. spoke about earlier, in terms of are you mid-range looking to return, or are you at the peak of your age when you're now looking to really return to Jamaica, to necessarily work, but to more retire in a more comfortable position? So, we have to look at these two key factors and definitely looking at your attitude towards it, how you had your track record in payments in the past in terms of the debts that you would have previously.
Rory, you're muted.
So it's important to establish whether you're purchasing either via cash or via a mortgage. And this will always be considered by your individual circumstances. And it also comes back to where you are in your life cycle. So we're going to look at these 5 key points when you're deciding to purchase either via cash or mortgage. It is importantly location. Location is always key. And there are a number of factors why you're going to look at location. Definitely, if you're going to purchase a property, it has to be under what is called a registered title to be legally purchased. You're going to look at your offer price versus your valuation, as generally in the market, your property will carry two prices: price of offer or the actual what we call market value. And you also have to consider what sort of down payment is it that I'm going to require. Generally, where the market is at now, you're looking at on average between 10 to 25% of the cost of the property that you need to put on towards your deposit. And your financing terms will deal with definitely what sort of arrangements you have made in terms of this purchase. So you will look at things like your sale agreement. If you're purchasing cash, usually there's a shorter time in which you must settle full payment as opposed to mortgage, which may have a longer term for you to settle your initial deposit and also final payment for the purchase. Some additional features you look at once you're considering specifically a mortgage to purchase. You're going to look at cost, which is your closing costs, which are usually your professional fees associated with obtaining a mortgage. You're going to look at things like your closing date and the date of possession. And these items are usually spoken to in your sales agreement. You're going to look at expiration of offer, which meaning that you may have made a deposit, you have been given what's called a letter undertaking for that initial deposit, and you have been given a time frame in which to settle the respective final sum, a possession of your property. You'll also look at contingency insurances, whether on life or on property. And we look at like your valuation report, survey report. And just to move quickly along, just to give you a quick synopsis of a practical example of what you're looking at in the market. A property costing 20 million at roughly a rate of 200 to 1. That's 200 Jamaican dollars to 1. You're looking at roughly £100,000. That would work out to 90% financing that amount. You're looking at roughly £9,000 over a 2-year period. Your estimated monthly payment will be about 701 or 140,000 Jamaican dollars based on rate of exchange. Looking at a higher market value, such as 35,000, your sterling amount would be roughly about 175,000, using the same rate of exchange. Over 90% loan to value or financing period, same 20%, your estimated monthly payment would be £1,218 or 243,600. And this is just to give you a practical example of what you would be looking at in terms of a mortgage tenure. So anyone from about 45 years of age would be looking at 20 years in terms of this practical example. And you can definitely go to our website and apply to our online portal, the online portal for persons who may be interested in mortgage. And being that we are a Victoria Mutual Group and we try to be an entity or a company that facilitates persons being able to make sort of a one-stop shop kind of facility. So we cater for a number of, I would say, requirements in terms of what people may demand. We have a property services arm of the company. And as the slide here says, it deals with sales and property valuation, property management, project management. So for those persons who are especially interested in purchasing property and may need some assistance or maybe selling a property and want assistance, Victoria Mutual Property Services is definitely your compete with. For those persons who may be and don't possibly take the motor vehicle that they have here or haven't acquired a motor vehicle here, or we definitely want to acquire one while in Jamaica, we do facilitate the option of an automobile loan. The maximum tenure of the vehicle must not be older than 9 years. And I'm going to now hand over to my colleague from the wealth management arm, which is Mr. Leslie Walker, just to give you some diversification in terms of your investment and saving while you're thinking of returning to Jamaica. Leslie?
Yes, Rory, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good night, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. All right, so I am from the wealth management side of VM Group. Now, VM Wealth Management is a subsidiary of VMIL, which is VM Victoria Mutual Investment Limited. Now, we are a licensed securities dealer since 1994. We were listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 2017. And really, we are a leading investment manager for both individual and institution across Jamaica and the Caribbean. Now, we believe at VM Wealth that wealth is about freedom and to pursue what matters most to you. So I know that for us, we all have big goals and aspirations, and as such, we have to put the relevant steps in place as to how we are going to achieve those goals and aspirations. So at Victoria Mutual, of course, we are specialized in looking at our clients' needs, looking at their goals, looking at their objectives, assessing their timelines and their risk appetite. And we seek to tailor our services in such a way that they reach or assist you in realizing your financial goals. Now, we do this through our stock brokerage services, we have our unit trust products, we have our bonds, margin loan, and corporate finance. But for the purpose of this presentation, I just want to highlight 2 or 3 of those products, right? So let's start with the stocks. Now, Mr. Nathaniel Peat would have echoed in his presentation that the Jamaica Stock Exchange would have been voted the best performing stock exchange in the world in 2018, which means big things are going on yard, right? So if it is that you are interested in becoming a part owner of a company or to purchase shares or stocks in a company, now through VM, you can do that. The Jamaica Stock Exchange platform called JTrader allows you to trade those shares in terms of you can buy, you can sell at your convenience. Now, the benefit of stock ownership is that you benefit from dividend payment. So at any point in time, based on a company's earning, they can declare what is called dividend. And because you're a part owner of that company, you will benefit from that. In addition to that, you have capital gain. So say, for example, you buy a share for $1 and price appreciates to $2. Now your value would have increased in terms of capital. So say you spend $10 to acquire 10,000 shares at a particular time, and the value increased to $2. based on demand for that share, your position is no longer $10,000, but $20,000. From time to time, you will get bonus shares being shareholder of a company, and then to sweeten things, a company may do stock split from time to time. We also provide our clients with the freedom to access our unit trust portfolio. Currently, Victoria Mutual Wealth has 9 portfolios, 4 of which are denominated in US dollars, 5 in Jamaican dollars, and we seek to spread them across the different financial asset classes, such as real estate, money market, stock trading, and so on. So far, I just want to quickly highlight that our property portfolio that invests predominantly in real estate has been our top and best performer. Last year, 2021, the total growth rate would have been a little over 10%. And in 2019, so I would love to share that our growth rate for that year was almost 15%, because it was 14.32%. So our property portfolio is our best performing portfolio denominated in Jamaican dollars. Now, if it is that you are someone who doesn't like any volatility at all on your portfolio, and you're looking for something more fixed that provides you with a steady stream of earning over a particular period of time, then we talk bonds. And bonds are really credit facilities or loans where, simple put, companies from time to time or the government of different states and countries may come to the market to raise these bonds, and they would agree to pay you at an interest rate over a period of time, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, and then you as the investor would benefit from interest payment that are paid out to you. It can be quarterly or semi-annually, or in rare cases annually. And bonds are really a nice addition to your portfolio to mitigate against any market volatility, and also to preserve your investment and generate income as share with you. So again, if you're looking for stability, return income, bonds is a good addition to your portfolio. So let me just put that into perspective. I'm not sure how many of us are aware of the New Fortress Energy company. They recently came to the market with an offer of about 6.5% on a 7-year bond, paying interest quarterly. Now, this is very attractive considering what is taking place in the market space, where, you know, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and once there's tension in the market space, it causes significant volatility. Now, there is some opportunities where you know that the prices of oil is going up, skyrocketing, and the energy sector is benefiting. So you'd want to lean forward or lean to those sector or industry that you deem will do extremely well during this time. So there are still opportunities, even though there is great fallout in the market. So but definitely, and it's a 7-year bond. So you can actually invest in this and benefit for the next 7 years.
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Leslie. So in wrapping up our presentation, we wanted to focus on what it is that you do next. Well, it's important that we seek the necessary assistance and support. You heard the High Commissioner speak earlier, so the Jamaican High Commission, there's a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We heard the Senator speaking earlier as well. There's the Jamaica Customs Department. There's notable associations and support groups such as IDS, the Jamaica Diaspora UK. And of course, to contact us at VM, that's our contact details, manager at myvmgroup.com. And then we have our Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube on our social media spaces. Thank you so much for the presentation. We hope you certainly enjoyed it.
Thank you very much to Leighton and his team. So that's Rory O'Harris and Leslie Walker as well joining in. I know Rory's audio wasn't the best, but we could still hear what he was saying, and this video and the presentations will be posted on YouTube and other social media platforms after the webinar. So for those of you who would want to go back and watch over and over again, take notes, that will be possible after the webinar for sure. It will post it on the Integrated Diaspora Services platform, and we're also screening on Scene TV. Okay, so I can see a few questions coming in, and maybe, but what I'll do is we'll finish with property, and then we'll put the questions to both companies. So I'm gonna invite Khori, Hyde, and his team from Moorland Developments to come and speak now. I'll just introduce Khori. So Khori is from Jamaica. He's the founder and director of an organization called YOUNG, which stands for Youth Organization Undertaking National Growth. He's the founding regional director for the Jamaicans Inspired UK, and he's also a needs assessment coordinator for the Jamaica Basic Schools Foundation. He's an accomplished serial entrepreneur and an ambassador for Victoria Mutual and Moorland Property Development. He recently launched the buyingpropertygamaica.com, which has already started helping many people to find dream properties in Jamaica. So Rory, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, our moderator, Dr. Kevin Brown. Through you, I would like to just say all protocols observed, interest of time, basically. And glad to see our colleagues from Victoria Mutual. And as Leighton rightly said, we can't stress enough the importance of investigating where you're taking your heart to. Love Jamaica, support Jamaica, go Jamaica. Of course, I will always be one who's advocating for that. And I'm going to be saying this, and I want to talk to you, my audience, in a very firm tone. We have the managing director of Moorland Development here with us today, Mr. Carlton Maxwell. And of course, we also have Mr. Jason Baker, who will be joining me on this presentation. And it's going to be a verbal presentation. There's nothing on the screen. I just want you to just listen to us. And it is unfortunate that many people who really want to take their hearts home have had that heart broken. The stories, the horror stories run deep, but it's getting better through partnerships like this, and the process has become very, very seamless as it relates to trust, building trust. And we want to just emphasize that if you ask the right questions in the right forum, you will get the right answers. Information should be free to every single soul, especially for those who want to make a bold move. Now, many times you ask, where are the developers in all of these forums? And that is why we are here today in Moorland Development. And to just give a background into Moorland Development, what we are all about and the products that we put to market, we have Mr. Carlton Maxwell, Managing Director. I want him to open his mic and his video, and he will tell you about Moorland Development. And then we'll have Jason, who have been taking products to market for several years, and just making sure that trust is there for you, the diasporans who really want to take your heart home. Mr. Carlton Maxwell.
I thank you very much, Khori, and want to say all protocol observed. I want to thank everyone for inviting us to participate in this program. We are indeed happy to be a part of this webinar, and Moorland Development has in the past partnered with VM and others to look at to see whether we can meet the needs of the diaspora. And to say that to date, just a little background on Moorland for those who don't know. Moorland Development is located, we are based in Manchester. We are predominantly a company that was formed just about 20 years ago. We are in our 20th year, and we were formed out of employees of the Bauxite Company who decided back then, that Alpart which was Alpart at the time, having so much land that we could join our resources together to build and develop properties. Having done so, we have done Moorland's Estate, Moorland's Manor, Palmbrook Estate. Now we're doing White House Beach Club, and it's about to start a property in Trelawney called Newport. Now, what we do is that we try to offer properties that are eco-friendly and secured. So generally security and in the environment becomes our pivotal pillar of what we promote within our development. One other thing that we want to do is that we have noted with interest that a lot of the persons who have bought from us in these development are persons from the diaspora, some of whom have asked us to go one step further, as to build their houses for them. And we have engaged them in very fruitful discussion and have built a number of houses for persons who are from the diaspora. We have gained some amount of success, some amount of knowledge, and a lot of trust in the process. And that has spurred us in our development in Westmoreland called White House Beach Club, where we are developing 110 beach villas overlooking the Caribbean Sea. And what we have done is that primarily our target group has been, one of our main target group has been Jamaicans in diaspora, and they are loving the product and they are trusting in our ability to deliver the product. And as a result of that, we are having a fantastic relationship that is taking place between ourselves and persons from the diaspora. But what we do know is that there are some persons who don't necessarily want to be in our gated community. That's some, and they do have land in Jamaica already. One of the things that we are targeting now is how we can assist persons. We can leverage the trust factor. We can leverage the deliverables. We can leverage the satisfaction persons get from working with us to get to the point where we can actually build their home for them and properties that they own in Jamaica. We always say to persons, we tend to confine our development into what we call developed schemes. So one of the things, when a person comes to us to develop their home, we try to make sure it's in a look where it is to ensure that your needs are satisfied when the house is completed and you have moved into it. The other program that we are promoting now is that of promoting persons who have land who would love to develop it, where we can say to them, we will take that process, the naked land for you, and make a product out of it.
Khori, have we lost? You're muted, Khori.
Jason, are you with us? Seems that we have lost Mr. Max. So what I was alluding to was the fact that we're actually developing on naked land, which is the build on your own land project, right? So what we're actually doing is building out communities. So a number of individuals can come together from the diaspora. If you, for example, I'm going to use one area, and forgive me, I'm Dr. Kevin Brown, if I go south, Brixton. So, for example, there are a lot of changes in Brixton, and you have grown up in Brixton, and quite a number of you want to say, you know what, we're going to take Brixton to Jamaica. And you pool together, we will be able to build that community of Brixton for you on that naked land. So, you know, having that discussion, we can tailor your needs of having that community setting relocated from the United Kingdom to Jamaica. So hopefully that we still have Jason who can complete the other part of the presentation. What Mr. Maxwell was onto was something that was really, really intended for diasporans to really consider taking their heart home into a community itself. Jason, you with us? Are you with us, Jason?
If
Mr. Maxwell is back.
Mr. Maxwell seems to be back. Mr. Maxwell, are you back? Is he?
Hello? Yes.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Go ahead, Mr. Maxwell. You can finish your presentation.
Yes, I'm back. Unfortunately, Jason is having some trouble and he's not reconnected. So I'm just continuing what Laura was saying, is that the idea is that sometimes what we find is persons coming back to Jamaica and living in community with people they cannot associate with, they cannot relate to, and they come back to move and live with families that are not, that have changed, their dynamics have changed, the dynamics of what they left and the dynamics of what they have developed over the period. There's a change and there's a shift. So we are saying by pooling resources and developing this community, what we are communities, what will happen is a matter of a community that have like-minded persons in it, persons who can relate, who can associate, and who can integrate in a way that is positive. And just following up on the presentation that VM made, is ensuring that we locate these communities in proximity to the necessary amenities. So that medical services, community services, shopping centers, things like those are within a particular proximity. Things like the internet and electricity and water are critical infrastructure that you want to ensure that persons are within proximity of those. But one of the most important things that we want to bear in mind in concluding the discussion is that we pay very special attention to the environment. If the development that we do must adhere to the improvement of Jamaica as a country. So when we get into to do something for you, we look at how the infrastructure and what we're doing and what we're going to be building on the property will improve Jamaica and improve the lives of the citizens and persons who are coming to Jamaica. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Max. And just in closing, we have the cautionary pillars. And there are 3 cautionary pillars. And if you look at these words, you may wonder why we're cautioning individuals. But oftentimes people put these words together in pursuit of their dream, and they have gotten their heart broken because of it. The word cheap, the word fast, and the word good. When it comes to property development and trying to take your heart home, and Mr. Max, you coined it very well. And if you probably permit me to start it off, that a lot of times people want to make that quick move into Jamaica and would want something under the guise of affordability. So can you build me something very fast? Please, I don't have much money. But remember the dynamics that if it is offered cheap and fast, it is oftentimes not very good. And if you want good, not necessarily it's gonna be cheap, nor is it gonna be fast. And if you want it fast, it may not be cheap. So these are the things that, when you're talking about property development through Moorland development, it is a conversation of trust and establishing the parameters of, one, your affordability, because your dream, your vision may exceed the reality. So we encourage the diaspora to enter this on the 70-30 rule, where it is 70% logics and 30% emotion. And we are not in the business of breaking anybody's heart. So in concluding this little part until the Q&As, Dr. Kevin Brown, I'm saying we're going to continue to build communities under this one umbrella of what we call the positive partnerships. We have ideas here, Victoria Mutual, that is sitting right here to help you, and Moorland Development to take that structure out of the land that you own or even have the permission to build on. Take your heart home, it's safe.
All right, well, thank you very much, Khori. That's a nice message to end on. And I can see already that members of the VM group are answering questions directly in the chat room. So keep asking your questions there. And also, Khori, if you could place the contact details for Moorland Developments in the chat room, I think that would be great. Of course, Integrated Diaspora Services can also be a contact for any speaker here that you're interested in contacting as well. Okay, so let's keep moving in the interest of time. The next speaker is going to be talking about shipping and customs. Now we know that that's an important part of returning home, because a lot of us have homes in the UK fully furnished, and some of us, like my grandmother, want to take home your furniture, your car, and your other personal possessions. So we're going to hear from Beverly Johnson. She's a Jamaican. She has over 30 years experience in the maritime industry. She's the immediate past president of the Freight Forwarders Association of Jamaica and a trainer of the United Nations Trainmar program on international freight forwarding at the Caribbean Maritime Institute. Her training facilitation extends to the Management Institute for National Development, the Jamaica Customs Department, JAMPRO, and all the English-speaking Caribbean. Beverly is based also in the United Kingdom, and I have much pleasure in inviting her to take the floor. Beverly.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed, just to ensure the time. As was said, I'm Beverly. I'm here to talk about shipping and logistics and to bring some resolution to some of the problems that most returnees do encounter. First, you need to establish who exactly is a returning resident, because a number of times in my business, I see people coming to me suggesting that they're ready to go home and they want to be a returning resident, but they do not understand what the Jamaica Customs and the government of Jamaica's requirements are for them to be able to access the customs duty concession. And note I said concession and didn't say free. The customs duties concession that are available to you. So a returning resident is really a citizen of Jamaica, whether by birth or by naturalization, having lived outside of Jamaica permanently for a minimum of 3 years, and who's over the age of 18 years old and is now ready to return home permanently. I say that because oftentimes persons believe that they can still have a home overseas and a home in Jamaica. And yes, you can, but you must provide the evidence that you're moving your present household and personal belongings to your new resident in Jamaica. So some persons, nobody's forcing you to dispose of your properties in your foreign country. You can keep that property as an investment. You can keep that property for your children. You just simply need to be able to explain to customs why that property was not sold. So the rules of the returning resident includes that of Jamaicans, as I said, over the age of 18 years old. It also covers students who have studied overseas and been away for more than 3 years. And it also includes those persons who might have been incarcerated in a foreign institution and is now released and is ready to come home and have been away for 3 years or more. It also provides for the facilitation of persons through naturalization. So you might be a Jamaican husband with a wife from a foreign country. You can naturalize that person. And for all of us who have our children who may one day want to come home, please remember that you have a dual citizen status, so you can get your Jamaican passport through naturalization, which then makes the process of coming home as a Jamaican a simple process. So the problem that we now have with persons coming home to Jamaica as returnees is that they do not understand the process of customs. The customs have a set of rules. You must be over 18, can't stress it any longer. You must be more than be away 3 years or more. Or if you're a pensioner, you must provide proof of pension. If you were working in a foreign jurisdiction, you have to show evidence that you have given up your employment in that foreign jurisdiction. You also have to provide evidence of where you're coming to live in Jamaica, as well as you must provide a shipping document, which is called a bill of lading or an airway bill, and your tax registration number. Nobody can do business with the Jamaican government without a TRN number. So if you don't have one, please ensure that you do get one. And it's a simple process to apply. It costs you nothing. So I encourage you to go into the tax office or apply for it online. Qualifying for your returning resident status, as I said, you must have lawful status in Jamaica. If you don't, you will find that you'd have shipped your goods thinking that I'm a Jamaican and you have no lawful status because you have not naturalized yourself, or you cannot prove that you're a Jamaican, even though you were born there. And I had one such case as recent as October, because you cannot find your birth certificate. You have a British passport, but you cannot show the link, or a foreign passport, but you cannot show the link to Jamaica, or you have an incorrect name. You'd be surprised to know how many persons' names, you have one set of name in a foreign jurisdiction, another set of name when you're going home. So all those things need to be tied up so that we can accept that you are a Jamaican. Once you are approved after the pre-inspection by the Jamaica Customs Department, you are then given the eligibility for your duty-free concession for the personal items you're taking in. Now, there's a rule of thought, because some people say, I'm coming home as a returning resident, but the Jamaica Customs still charge me some customs duties. That will happen if you have excess cargo. So they give you the allowable concession of a 3-bedroom house, your tools of trade, and you can, every Jamaican can take home 1 bicycle, 1 motorbike, 1 motor car, 1 truck. All of you can take that home as a returning resident. Now, for your motor vehicles, as most people ask, you can take a motor vehicle from 0 to 10 years old if it's a car. Now, if you want to see a reduction in your customs duties, the older the vehicle you take, of course, the lesser the value, hence the lesser the duty. But the customs duties taxation levy on motor vehicles are based solely on 1, the fuel type, whether it's petrol or diesel, and the CC rating of the vehicle. And it's that tariff structure that they apply. And then the value you declare based on the tariff structure, the percentage applied, will determine your customs duties. That is a confusion most persons have. If you wish to take a vehicle to Jamaica, which is 6 years or older, you must own that vehicle for a period of 6 months before that vehicle can be shipped to Jamaica. If the vehicle is 0 to 6 years old, you have no problem shipping it once you have complied with the vehicle inspection and have obtained the necessary import license, you can ship. But if you went out today and bought a vehicle which is 7 years old, you have to own that vehicle, hold that vehicle in your foreign jurisdiction for 6 months before you can ship it to Jamaica. Now, persons who are traveling on a foreign document, which means you do not have a Jamaican passport, you can have that foreign passport stamped by the PICA office, which is the passport office in Kingston or Montego Bay, giving you indefinite leave to remain in Jamaica. Once you can prove by your birth certificate that in fact you are a Jamaican, but you have not gotten yet a Jamaican passport. And I want to stress the importance of all of us allowing our children to get, and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, to get our Jamaican passport, because you can be naturalized up to 3 generations. The clearance process in Jamaica for your goods, now because of COVID, is done through J-Swift. Now, it means that you can actually check your pre-clearance status to make sure you're eligible before you then go and ship and get all the surprises that people encounter when their shipments arrive Jamaica. The question I asked the minister just now is a very poignant one, because it takes just too long, as far as I'm concerned, through the Jamaica customs processing. And once your container is sitting at the port, the carrier does not care that your goods are sitting in, your documentation is sitting in the customs department, awaiting the processing. And the port does not care that your documentation is sitting in the customs department, And so these charges are adding up day by day. For that reason, with the changes that we've seen in transportation cost, I advise my customers now to consider purchasing their own container, which is a shipper's own container, whether a 20-foot or a 40-foot container, to move their goods to Jamaica. That way, they will not have these high demurrage charges, which runs into the thousands. And that is what is some of the deterrent that people are having. The J-Swift is the Jamaica's single window for trade. All of us now having to do customs clearance must use J-Swift. So the website is www.jswift.gov.jm/register. You must register on J-Swift to do business with the Jamaica Customs Department. If you're having a customs broker to clear your goods, then that customs broker will become your entity agent and you are the entity chief. Once that is set up, your forwarder can assist you in taking the clearance process. I can tell you, if you don't like the port, you don't have to go to the port. A good freight forwarder, such as a JLB Shipping, will do your complete customs clearance for you without you having to go to the ports. So I encourage persons who are looking to move their goods home, first and foremost, you must have a complete list of the items being shipped. If the items are used, please apply a reduced value for them, because customs is going to ask you to give them the value of each of your beds, each of your sofa set, each of your washing machine. If it's new, they're going to ask you for the new receipts. That value is taken up not because duties are going to be applied, but because they're needed for STATIM, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, is where the government can report how much duty-free concessions they've given to us, people of the diaspora coming home each year. So please remember to put lower values for used items, and your tools of trade, please have a detailed list of those. You're entitled to those as well coming home. Do come home, it's beautiful. Quite honestly, I've never left Jamaica. My bed is still there. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Beverly. A lot of us have never left Jamaica in our hearts, so we just need to bring that physical heart home as well. But that was very informative, Beverly. I found myself taking notes, so so I do hope that many of us also took notes, because that was very informative. Now, there's an interesting question here and very timely when you think about the situation of cars. Maureen Scott Douglas is asking, are there further discounts for electric and hybrid vehicles?
Yes, there are discounts for hybrid. Actually, the hybrid vehicles have the lowest rate of duty. They're 49%. Electric doesn't have a real low rate of duty. It's still 54% because, of course, I don't think we have enough plug-up points just yet. But hybrids are the lowest rate of duties. Another thing I want to say to persons is that a number of persons says, oh, I can't be bothered to take my cars home because of the hassle and the high rate of duties. As a returning resident, anyone who's importing a vehicle, actually, you pay 1% duty less than the auto dealers. So, and the auto dealers is going to mark up the cost of importing that vehicle to sell it back to you. So you do have cost savings. What I say to my customers, compare the vehicle you're looking to take home, have your freight forwarder calculate for you your duties and taxes, then go into the Jamaican marketplace and look at the dealership and see what price you could get the same vehicle for, apples for apples. Then you decide if you wish to buy the vehicle locally or you're going to take the pain for 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks of pain, but you will get your vehicle easily $700,000 to $1 million less.
Okay, and Beverly, I can see another question is they're asking about J-Swift. Just asking to repeat the address for J-Swift.
I will write that into the chat.
Okay, okay, so that's fine. See if there are any more questions on. Okay, so Beverly will be here for the duration of the webinar. So if you have any more questions on shipping, do put them in the chat room. We will certainly pick them up and ask them as well. There's a question here, Beverly, from Charlene Scott. Would the dual citizenship naturalization cover offspring of Jamaicans born abroad?
Yes, resoundingly.
Okay.
Grab it quickly. It's an entitlement.
Yes, so
Up
so
to
if
3 generations.
Exactly, so if you have Jamaican heritage, you can claim your Jamaican citizenship.
And if you're married to a Jamaican, you can claim too.
There you go. There you go. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. Just trying to check if Mr. Fitz Bailey is with us, because I know crime and security.
Yes, I am on.
Oh, no, that's Mr. Latouche. We're looking for Mr. Fitz.
I am on. This is Fitz Bailey.
Oh, Fitz. Oh, okay. I'm coming up as Percival Latouche. That's weird. Okay. So, Mr. Bailey, I want to welcome you to the webinar. We're going to let you speak. I'm just going to quickly introduce you. And then you can also, if you are in a position to turn on your camera, you're most welcome to do so. So Fitz Bailey, he has been with, he has over 37 years of professional experience with the Jamaica Constabulary Force. He's been a police officer for life, one could argue. And he's the Deputy Commissioner of Police is his current role, and he heads the crime portfolio in the Jamaica Constabulary Force and continues to leave an indelible whoever wrote these notes for me. No, I'm going to have to curse them later. I'm trying to pronounce these words. But he's certainly made his mark on criminal investigations in Jamaica. DCP Bailey has certainly been one of the more popular faces of the Jamaica Constabulary Force in recent time as they try to stamp out the high levels of violent crime in the country. He's here today to speak to the topic of crime and safety for returning residents. DCP Bailey, the floor is yours. DCP Bailey, you can unmute and go ahead.
Let me say good evening or good afternoon to everyone. We're actually on the platform. I know that protocol has already been established. I was given 5 minutes, so I'm going to just cut to the chase immediately in terms of what I was asked to do. I'm actually traveling, so I'm unable to actually open my video. Now, the JCF has identified 7 strategic priorities in our quest to treat with the issue of crime and violence. First of all, I must say that Jamaica has a violence problem. Whilst we have the problem of crime, but one of our major problems is violence. So in terms of what we do, the 7 strategic priorities rest on 3 pillars. And I think the commissioner continued to reinforce it: law enforcement, force transformation, and stakeholder engagements. And the 7 strategic priorities are crime reduction and control, improving public safety and security, organizational restructuring and capacity building, enhancing staff welfare, improving accountability and professional standard, enhancing efficiency through technology, and improving communication and public engagement. I know you are concerned mostly with the issue of crime control and public order issue. So what we have been doing in the JCF is that as we seek to reduce crime, we are focusing on guns, gangs, and gunmen. So what are we doing? We have arrested a significant amount of gang members. One of the largest amount is currently before the court, where 33 persons have been arrested and charged. And the trial is basically being observed by the general public. And a lot of things are being revealed out of that trial. Some of the things that we have been saying as law enforcement and generally the public were in denial, now it is coming to fore because of the trial. And so that's one. We have a number of other gang members that have been arrested and are pending trials. Just recently we had an arrest in St. Catherine South, where 10 members of a gang were charged as an organization. And there are a number of other cases that we have in train to be completed. And I think this is going to have and is having significant impacts in Jamaica. One of the things that we have also embarked on as we seek to dismantle and disrupt the gang's activity, we have also established recently a joint task force between the JCF and the JDF in terms of disrupting and suppressing violence across the nation. We're also looking at science-based investigation, and we have been focusing using communication forensics, using cyber forensics, we're using ballistics and other science in our investigation. We're also exploiting the use of technology establishment of Jamaica High. It's a work in progress. We are seeing significant, we actually seek to modernize the force, reform the force. We want to ensure that what we do will not be easily changed by successive administration. So that's one of the approaches we are using. So we focus on investigation. And just recently, for example, and in order to engage the
DCP Bailey, you're breaking up a bit. I'm not sure you were okay at the beginning, but it's
public as well. We have announced and we see are you hearing me? Am I being heard? I'm just trying to.
You are breaking up a bit.
Me?
We are hearing you now, DCP Bailey. So please go ahead. Hopefully it will be stable. But go ahead.
So what we are in terms of our crime reduction effort, we announced 88 wanted persons just recently, and the overwhelming support that we are getting from the public. Just before I joined, we were looking and reviewing. We announced those individuals almost the beginning of February, and we have arrested 17 of those most wanted persons. Unfortunately, if I may say, one was fatally killed, was shot and killed by the police. I'm told that we should say deceased instead of being shot and killed, but I'm very practical. He was shot and killed by the police. So there are 17, and over the period, we have arrested, in addition to those, an additional about 50 wanted person. So we are making an inroad. When we started the year, we realized that the murder in particular was getting away from us. We have pulled back. Currently, there's a over 15% reduction in major crimes. In terms of pulling the firearms from the street, there's a significant improvement in terms of the amount of firearms that we have recovered since the beginning of the year. We have recovered a significant amount of rifles in particular. And the Prime Minister recently announced what is called the Get the Gun campaign, which we believe is going to, create significant benefits. As well as the new legislation, the firearm legislation, that they are hoping that before the end of the first quarter, that legislation firearm recovery and firearm charges. In terms of public safety, we have really re-energized the public safety and traffic enforcement branch, which is a Peat, and there's greater visibility on the street. We see greater police presence, and we see greater management of public space and traffic enforcement. I know that most of you are familiar with the Returning Residents Handbook, and I want to commend it to everyone because it provides significant information in terms of directory for important places, all the area crime officers, divisional crime officers, CSSB. There are contacts in residence, how you must conduct yourself in terms of being a witness or being a victim of crime. It also gives some security tips, which I consider to be very important. So I think those are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. As I said, I was given 5 minutes, so there's not much more I can say. I think my 5 minutes has been expired. But if there are any questions that you need to ask, I will stick around for a few and will be available to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey. There is a question here because I know you don't have much time to stay with us, Deputy Commissioner. There's one question here from C. Taylor. Please tell us about the role of the Jamaica SWAT team.
Well, the SWAT team is one of the units that operates from specialized operation. It's more a tactical unit that respond to what we call the extreme level of violence in our country. We use them in highly dangerous and sensitive type initiative. For example, there's a counter with organized crime investigation, transnational organized crime. And when there's a high value violent in the SWAT team in terms of apprehending, and if there's a case of, for instance, of activity.
DCP Bailey, have we lost you?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes, you're there. Okay, so
yes, I was saying I don't know.
Yes, go ahead.
You heard my explanation.
Yes,
I was saying that the SWAT team basically deal with high value violence individual, and when there is high level of violence, they are deployed to suppress that level of violence, and if there's a significant target, they are also deployed.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. We also have another question here. Shanique is asking, is the Get the Gun campaign where gunmen receive money to turn guns in? And if it is the case that they receive money for the gun, is that a smart move? And what benefits are expected from this Get the Gun campaign?
You know, let me put it this way. That initiative was announced by the Office of the Prime Minister. It has been directed, so I don't really want to comment much on it. But what I'm saying, there are significant benefits to be derived from it. There might be some challenges, but there are significant benefits to be derived.
Okay. The next question is from Mr. Khori Hyde. How is St. Anne's looking in terms of crime reduction since COVID?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Mr. Khori Hyde is asking, how is the parish of St. Anne's? How is it looking in terms of crime reduction since COVID?
Well, St. Anne last year had a great year in terms of there was a significant reduction. Albeit I don't have the percentage reduction, but there's a reduction, especially in all crimes in St. Anne last year. And I can attest to the fact that there's an excellent commander who is leading the charge there. Very people-oriented, very community-type policing-oriented, and he's doing a fantastic job. There's a reduction in crime in Center. And it's a place that I will encourage people to live. When I retire, I want to live in Center.
Well, and I'm sure you tell us where you are. You're gonna live DCP, and we'll all come and live next to you. I'm sure we'll certainly feel a lot safer living next to the Deputy Commissioner for Police. The next question here we have is from Errol Bent. So Errol Bent is asking DCP, what is being done about training and development of your own officers who, according to Mr. Bent, can be confrontational with the public and each other? I guess he's just asking what is being done to improve professional standards within the JCF.
It's a
You're breaking up a bit there, DCP.
Ongoing engage different entity friends. We're saying that we use art to train our men and women in customer service. That is something that we are emphasizing. And I want to say that one of the things that we are embarking on right now is ISO 9001, and that is to standardize and to create a more professional approach in what we do. So if we are going ISO 9001, then there's no doubt that one of the emphasis is the professional standard and behavior of the men and women, although we focus on systems and processes. But we are doing everything through training, through capacity building, to create that level of professionalism and a more customer-focused organization.
Okay, and because of time, this might be the final one. So Beverly Johnson, I'm going to put what she said it as a question, and then I'm going to allow her to comment as well. But firstly, in the form of a question, she's asking about guns and ammunition through our ports. Can you update us on what's being done to reduce guns and ammunition being imported through ports in Jamaica?
Well,
illegally imported.
Based on our data and our intelligence, a significant of the firearms that we have, illegal firearms, do not come through our formal ports. Because of the porousness of Jamaica as an island, there are hundreds of informal ports, and a lot of the firearms are actually taken in by fisher folks, people going to, for instance, Haiti. It is difficult even with the investment of, playing with, to really identify that operate on the sea. But we have been partnering with our international partners. I have been engaged in several, formal meetings, discussions in terms of trying to create a strategy and a method to impact on the illegal importation of firearms. I don't think, whilst we may have a few that may come through our formal ports, we have had some seizure in the past, but the majority of the weapons are coming through the informal ports.
Okay. And Beverly, very briefly, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I would like to. Just to make a recommendation to DCP Fitz Bailey. The Jamaican government does not mandate us in the logistics community overseas to ascertain identification or any structured form that will support your investigations. So oftentimes when you come back to the foreign jurisdiction for assistance, you come up on a brick wall. I think if the Jamaican government was to make it mandatory, like other countries do, that the transport provider must obtain proper identification, payment by credit payment by debit by bank cards, and signature matching identification, then if you have a fine in Jamaica, stage deliveries could be made, whilst the foreign jurisdiction of Border Patrol and the security forces could also be investigating the suppliers. But presently, anybody can walk into a shipping company and give a fictitious name. Nobody dictates that you should have a correct name or a correct identification. And that's because the Jamaican government has not mandated that this is the way, the rule of shipping.
Thanks for that input. I know we have worked with our, especially our American partners, and I know since recent time, and based on the interaction that we have had with them, that was implemented in some state, maybe not in all of the states, whereby, and I must say to this meeting that a number of the shipments that do come into Jamaica, we work with our international partners, and when the arrest cannot be made in Jamaica, we have made especially in the US, significant amount of arrests have been made through the support from the local law enforcement for people who seek to import illegal firearms. But the point you have raised is accepted, and I'll make the appropriate recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you, Beverly, and thank you, Deputy Commissioner of Police. I was going to wrap up there, but there's one final question I'm going to squeeze in from Mr. Christopher Knight. He's asking how is the government dealing with the high rate of deportation from the UK and United States with respect to criminality?
Well, the record that I currently have, and based on what I have access to the data, I do not see a significant amount of deportees, whilst we may have a few, engaging in criminal activity. What we find is a lot of the deportees, when they do get here, they try to go back to the country from which they came. But I think we have a proper program and way of monitoring the deportees when they arrive in the country. So I don't see deportees as any significant threat to national security at this time.
Okay, boy, Minister, sorry, Deputy Commissioner. Okay, there are two more here, but very quickly. Charlene Scott refers to a documentary that showed how deplorable the state of the prisons are in Jamaica. I know prison isn't meant to be a hotel, but I think people are concerned that the prisons in Jamaica are really way below standard. I don't know if you have a view on the prison service in Jamaica.
Well, because that's not within my remit. It's a different ministry, different department. It's not a JCF. So I really don't want to comment on that. We have no control over the prison. So I really don't want to comment on that. Maybe the junior minister, if he's here, that's best. That question fits him. So I will not comment on it at this time.
That's fine, Deputy Commissioner of Police. Khori, Hyde. Khori, if your question is really, really quick, like a sentence, I can allow it. So unmute and you can ask your really, really quick question.
All right, thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you. All right, we have been getting a lot of this as it relates to squatting and adverse possession. A lot of diasporans have purchased their property on DCP Bailey, and just as them purchase it, somebody just move on to the land. So the question is there a simple intervention in place or being considered by the JCF, just to run that early intervention once it is reported that there's some amount of squatting before it actually reach to the legal processes? Because I know that can be drawn out. But if there's no adverse possession and it's an early squatting, is there something in place to remove that individual and just to come to some amicable solution without it being escalated or flared?
Well,
thank you, Khori.
Let me answer it this way. The issue of squatting is not really a police matter. If there is a dispute the police do intervene in a dispute. And if someone is on a person's place illegally, then the person need to take it to the court, for instance, for trespassing, etc. And if there are processes to be served, the police can accompany the person to facilitate the serving of the processes, be it summons, etc. But in terms of getting the person from off the property, that's a legal matter that the court will have to give the order and the police will support the enforcement of the order.
Thank you, DCP. That's been a burning question.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Khori, for your intervention. We're gonna pull stumps there, but it's been a really interactive conversation with the Deputy Commissioner for Police, and it's not often, by the way, that we get this direct interaction with a high-ranking member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So I just want to express a special thanks to you, Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey. We really appreciate you extending the time to be here with us, because we know that your timetable at the moment is very busy, and for anyone who's watching what's happening in Jamaica, you are the main man at the moment in terms of crime reduction. So we appreciate the fact that you've spared some time to be with the diaspora, and especially those of us who are considering returning home to live in Jamaica. Thank you very much, DCP Fitz Bailey.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Okay. All right. So there you have it from the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So in terms of crime and safety, DCP Bailey is leading. That's his portfolio, is leading the fight against crime. And if you're watching the news in Jamaica, you'll realize that he takes his job seriously, and he's making an impact. Of course, there's lots to do with respect to improving crime in the country, but certainly he is, he's certainly trying to make changes there. Now we're pretty much at the end. I know some of you are like, wow, the webinar has gone on for a bit, but we are pretty much at the end of the webinar, and I want to just thank you all for staying with us. Thank you all for your questions. We're going to have now just a final round of sort of wash up in terms of questions that anyone has before we have the vote of thanks. And then what we're going to do after we have the vote of thanks is the tradition of integrated diaspora services is that when they host a webinar, they leave open the Zoom for networking and open conversation. So we will cut the live feed that's online, but we will leave the Zoom open. There's also a poll that is coming up on your screen right now. I can see someone asking me about Mr. Latouche. Maureen, unfortunately, Mr. Latouche had some technical difficulties in joining. We really would have loved to have had Mr. Latouche, because he was meant to tell you all about what it's really like to live in Jamaica. And we hope to have him on soon in another webinar. So I really have to extend my deepest apologies for the absence of Mr. Percival Latouche here. So we're going to do just a final wash up on questions to any panelist. I'll just going to quickly check if we've covered all the questions. And there was a question here, and I'm just to put this out to the panel. Someone was asking, is there any tension between the locals and returning residents in the gated communities? And it's a really good question, because oftentimes the recommendation is that you should go and purchase a home in a gated community. But does anyone know of any tensions that may exist between locals and returning residents, even within these gated communities? I can see Khori and Beverly have unmiked.
Well, I'll start with myself.
Yes, go ahead.
I do own a property in a gated community, and I feel very safe there. And no, because we have a lot of familiarization sessions that go on, so people get to know people. I have had absolutely no difficulty. owning my property in a gated community.
Okay, thank you very much, Beverly. Short and sweet, love that. Khori?
Dr. Brown, there's always this notion that those who live in the gated community are better off, or think they're better off than those who reside outside the gates. Recent times, maybe three years back, just before COVID, there have been a real kind of leveling out of that kind of perception, because what happened now is that there's more integration as we interact with individuals, how to integrate in communities. So they find that those living in the gated community, it may just be because they're there because it's an investment opportunity, because the Airbnb market is now, through the roof in Jamaica. So they now understand that once they protect that level of, or that realm of potential, they too will benefit from it. So, the tension is not so high. So Bev, you living in your gated community, you shop down at Miss Brown right down there, so you can call and your things delivered. All right, come on. When you need to eat and you order online, where the food coming from? Right? Not necessarily in the gated communities, from outside. So
actually, you'd be surprised to know that
I know, Bev.
The deliveries are coming. I mean,
Okay.
when I go in, honestly, when I go in on a Friday afternoon, I really don't have to come out until Monday morning when I'm going back into my office. I mean, I can get Devon house coming to my door.
So that's a good point, though, Beverly. Are you saying?
Very serious.
Are you saying that you can have your groceries delivered to your home in Jamaica?
Yes,
absolutely,
yes,
Kevin.
yes.
That's how it is moving
to go
on.
out.
So how does that work?
These forums, it has been dispelled.
Because of the COVID-19, a lot of these companies were losing their shirts, and so they felt it necessary to come to the communities. And it has worked so well that even now, when things are relaxing a bit, they still offer it to you. So you go online, you order it, and it's delivered. And the Devon House ice cream people, they come and they line up on the drive, and you buy your ice cream like olden days. You really don't need to leave. And I get the gentleman coming to me with all my Carnation Market, yellow yam, green banana, sweet potato, seasoning. I don't need to go to the market.
Fantastic.
I think, Kevin, sorry, I just say Maureen Scott raised a concern in the chat, saying that, within the gated communities, what happens is that when you have persons, and I'm assuming here she means local Jamaicans who they are in a phase and they can't afford their monthly fees, then it becomes an issue, a cause for tension between them and those in the diaspora who can afford the monthly fees. And I think from our perspective, one of the things that we often say to persons when they come to get a mortgage for a gated community, in addition to the monthly payment, we often say to them, you need to add your monthly fees because you have a responsibility to ensure that you pay it. You can't just look at it, if my monthly payment is 175,000, for example, and my
maintenance
fees and maintenance, thank you, Bev, is 25. Then I'm just paying 175 a month. No, you're paying 200,000 per month because you're paying for a look, or you're paying for a feel, you're paying for the common areas to be kept, to be insured, and you're paying for safety to some extent. So the reality is, from what I've seen, is that sometimes what happens as well is that you have persons in the diaspora who have some of these properties who they're never there. And sometimes too, the reverse is true. They don't pay the maintenance fees, but that is why you have an association. You set up the association and you ensure that it is enforced. So this is taken care of.
Yes, and I think, let me just add to that, because I've had that experience. Some of these gated communities, the maintenance fees are just over the top. It's uncalled for. It's almost like a profit center instead of an offset for expenses to defray the expense. Where I have my property, I must say it's probably one of the lowest maintenance fees still, and that's because the community took to task the management to say, show us what is it, it costs you each month for XYZ, and a percentage for your wage and your utilities and management. And then we decide on a figure. But when you leave it to the management of these properties, they can just wake up with a number and decide, you know, for those who are, for the delinquents, the payers pay more. And it's unfortunate. I would say within my community, I would say 85% of the occupants, owners of the properties do pay. And that's because we fought, you know, fervently for them to show us the evidence of what it cost to maintain the pool, the jogging area. And that's another thing. I mean, I can wake up at 4 o'clock and go jogging and not worried about the fact that somebody could accost me. It's everything is in one place.
You know, and just to add to that, sorry, Leighton, it's a print and ink approach when it comes to maintenance fees. Oftentimes, you know, you have to put that ink in the printer for it to print after purchasing that printer. What we're also looking at now, we're taking it a step further, that if a particular landowner coming on in a development plan or idea, that they have put the land up as their portion, equity portion, or investment portion, and we develop that property. It's not like they're handing over everything. They may retain what you call the maintenance area of that agreement. So they may have 10 acres, and they retain maybe one particular area of that, but they control the maintenance part. So it is negotiable now between those persons buying into that property, into that development, you know, and the price of maintenance can be negotiated. But I hear what Beverly said, that it can be over the top, but it's also an element of development that can be negotiated, not set in stone.
All right.
I said, Nordia, not to cut this, Kevin, but Nordia, it was one of these sessions that the president of the Jamaican Real Estate Board was at, and he mentioned in terms of enforcing it, the Real Estate Board is doing something. Am I correct, Nordia?
Yeah, you're looking at that.
Right.
But just to add to what everybody is saying, it's imperative, and it's part of our consultation that we explain to persons that if you want to go in a gated community, these are aspects that you must take into consideration. It's not going to be free. However, if you are, you know, concerned about your safety and you don't want to go in a gated community and you want to go back to your community or someone on the open market, I mean, there are other solutions, security solutions that you can you know, opt for, like Hawkeye services, for example, where you can have video cameras or those, you know, fancy stuff that you can view your property from wherever you are in the world and monitor it and all those lovely fancy stuff. And, you know, so if you don't want to opt for the gated community because of security purposes, you can also avail of these solutions that are available in your country to protect you.
Jennifer, your mic is on. Jennifer Dyer, can you mute your mic, please? Or someone who
the eyes on my community is my community, and this is the reassurance that I get. I have every occupant within the gated community, to my mind, in my surrounding, is my security. I have persons saying, there was somebody at your home yesterday. Were you aware that this person is coming? And I could, you know, say back to my neighbor, yes or no. And I'm 6,000 miles away. So you build relationships. And in addition to your CCTV system, which you can, of course, as Nordia says, you can view from a distance. You can go back and check, you know, up to, I mean, my CCTV system runs for 45 days before it records. So you have that right to go back and check what's going on your property. Let's not fool ourselves, though. Gated communities are not always secure. The perpetrators can't find access. So you tend to lose like your fruit. You'd be surprised to know how many people steal bananas. You know, they watch the development of the fruit and it disappears. You might have a piece of machinery outside and it can disappear, because who guard the guards? That's another question you should ask. So doesn't necessarily mean persons are coming from the outside to take it, but who guard the guards?
And again, Dr. Brown, we remind persons that you have institutions like integrated diaspora services on the ground. If you want assistance, we're going to look if the banana tree is still there. We will go and look at it for you. And even pick the banana and give to whoever you want to distribute to. So we are here on the ground to assist with these nuances and fears and information you need.
Okay, thank you very much. And if anyone wants to get in touch with any of the speakers, I think their contact details have been shared in the chat room, including the contact details for integrated diaspora services and also JLB shipping, etc. So do contact them as well. Right. Okay. So there was another question here, Leighton Smith. Someone was asking, I think it was answered in the chat room, but I'll just put it out here in case someone missed it, about property insurance. Is that offered by the VM Group?
Yeah, we are an affiliate, BCIC, British Caribbean Insurance Company. They're an affiliate of ours, of the VM Group. So through BCIC, that can be done.
And is it mandatory in Jamaica to have property insurance?
Well, once your property is mortgaged, there's usually an insurance on it with any Jamaican financial institution. So once it is that you have a mortgage with us, yes, it is insured. Once you have repaid the mortgage, then your property may not be insured. And there's some persons who will choose not to do that. That's not wise, because remember, June too soon, July gone by, August is a must, and September to remember, October all over. And that's the slogan to remember the hurricane months. So because what will happen during that time period, it's important that we do have some insurance on our properties. Yes.
Thank you, Leighton.
Yes.
Just to add to that quickly for persons who might not know this, you don't have to do the search. And I'm not sure if this is a service that Integrated Diaspora Services offer. But what I do, for instance, I get an insurance broker to give me the presentation of the insurance providers, and then I decide which one I'm going to choose to provide, whether it's my health insurance, my house insurance, my content insurance, or a combination of. So just get an insurance broker and tell them, this is the value of my property, what will be the insurance, and let them go to the market for you and come back to you, and then you make a decision.
And yes, Lady Beverly, we do.
There you go.
There you go. So Integrated Diaspora Services can do that brokerage for you. I can see a message from the minister.
How can I get in touch with you?
Monica, their details are in the chat room. They've literally just posted it now. So if you go to the chat room, and it's right there, I can see Percival has just posted it there. But if you're still struggling, Monica, let us know. But it's in the chat room. Just scroll up two messages up. It's there.
Or she can put her contact as well, Dr. Brown, so we can contact her directly.
Yes, she's in the chat room, so you can also direct message her if you want. I just wanted to quickly say that, Monica, can you mute your mic, please? I can see a message from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade saying that they're about to sign off. In terms of questions to the ministry, I think that if the ministry is still there, the only question that was outstanding when the minister was speaking was one around what is the government doing around renewable energy and the promotion of solar energy.
We can take yours, baby.
Can someone in the technical team mute Monica, please?
It's 876 5788.
And someone on the technical team mute Monica Foster. Thank you. Right. So if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is still there and are happy to take the question around renewable energy, then that's the only question I think that was outstanding when the minister was presenting.
So can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kevin? Can you hear me, colleagues, friends?
Yes, Mr. Wilkes.
Yes, Mr. Wilkes.
We can hear you and we can see you, and we can see also Mrs. Brandt, Mrs. Brandt Smart as well. So thank you for joining the webinar, Mr. Wilkes. I'll just quickly introduce you, Mr. Wilkes. So Mr. Lloyd Wilkes is the director for the Diaspora Affairs Department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. He's also a former Consular General in Canada. Is it Toronto, Mr. Wilkes, or Ottawa?
Yes, Toronto.
And Mrs. Brandt Smart is the Assistant Director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. So, Mr. Wilkes, I take it you were gonna answer that question around renewable energy and the promotion of solar energy usage in the country?
Yes. Well, I won't be able to provide you with a very detailed response, but suffice it to say that the government is in fact very keen on the promotion of renewable energy for a variety of reasons, not least, of course, is the expense and the unpredictability of the movement of oil prices. So we pay a lot of money for energy out of our budget, and the government has, over a number of years now, been promoting the use of various alternative energy sources, including solar, wind, amongst others. In fact, I know for sure, when I was in Toronto, we received many, many requests from persons who are interested in investing in that area. Some have, and of course, we continue to receive proposals for that sort of thing. People in Jamaica also have been investing themselves in solar energy. So you'll see a lot of homes with built-in solar panels, a lot of people who live in gated communities, some of them probably produced by Moorland, amongst other developers, actually use the opportunity to put solar panels on some of those houses, as well as water heaters and so on. So it's not just the government that is promoting it, but also there are private companies who themselves are promoting the use of solar energy. So solar energy use in Jamaica and alternative energy sources is something that is quite common. And so persons in the diaspora who would be thinking about investing in solar farms or alternative energy sources, I would very much urge you to contact the ministry with responsibility for energy and indeed investigate the parameters within which you would have to operate and the sources to which you can do business, with which you can do business. If it is JPS, there are all different types of prescriptions based on legal and contractual obligations that you may have to understand to sell energy back to the grid. That currently happens now. But like I say, it's best for you to formally approach the business from an investigatory point of view, feasibility studies. I mean, do it the way you would know that business people conduct business. But the basic answer to your question is yes, the government is very keen on the sustained development of the use of alternative energy.
Right. And just to follow up there, Mr. Wilkes, for members of the diaspora who may want to take home an electric car, could you expand, sort of outline the government's plan for electric charging ports across the country?
Yes, there's a recognition not just of the desirability of having electric and or hybrid cars, but certainly of infrastructure to support that. As a policy decision, you would have heard before that electric cars and hybrid cars actually have a lower import duty. And that is a strategic position the government has taken, looking, of course, at how that would contribute to the issue of carbon and the business about the environment, which is critical and very important for our island economy. And so, yes, that is definitely something which the government also is looking at very seriously. There is a plan and a timetable for the rollout of charging ports. And I last heard Minister Vaz, I think it was, who was speaking about that issue. But I'd have to get the details of that to forward to persons who would be interested in hearing more about that. But the simple answer is yes, the government has plans, has a timetable, and will be rolling out far more charging ports than exist at the moment.
There was another question that was asked when Minister was speaking, Mr. Wilkes. There was someone raising concerns around retirement pension checks from overseas going missing at the post office. I don't know if if the ministry has had any such complaints, and is anything being done to address this problem?
I'm not personally aware of any complaints regarding missing pension checks. I know that certainly from the United Kingdom and from Canada, where we deal with pension, whether it's pension being paid one way or the other, that system has been working fairly efficiently. And for those returned residents who are now in Jamaica, I have not heard them complain about that matter. Most of these transfers we're talking about actually takes place by electronical means and not necessarily paper. For those paper-based checks or money orders, I have not personally heard of that experience. However, if that is a problem, the ministry would certainly like to be formally told. And so those complaints, if we receive them, we would certainly pursue avenues where redress can be sought or protection of those of some kind or the other can be put in place to ensure that that problem is eradicated. The last thing we need in Jamaica is for pensioners to be stripped of or somehow not have their pensions paid to them or receive their checks. So I'm pretty sure that the government would put its full weight behind that matter to investigate it fully and certainly to put in place some measure that would protect people from that sort of loss.
Okay, and very quickly, Mr. Wilkes, one last one here. I don't know if you can speak to it, but I'll ask it anyway. Someone is asking about what's being done with respect to individuals who have the unfortunate experience of property going missing from barrels that are shipped into the country.
Customs, the Jamaica Customs Agency has a complaint procedure, and they do have a procedure by which you can seek to reclaim any property lost whilst you are transacting business on the ports. However, I do not have any anecdotal evidence that I can provide or even documented evidence I can provide that would support the claim that people actually go through these procedures and are paid out for their losses. Very often, and I think Beverly would be able to give you more than I could, not just based on her the place she is, but certainly her experience with shipping and perhaps the information she received from her clients. But suffice it to say that very often people find it difficult to prove what they shipped in the barrels, because the barrels, unlike containers, people are not forced to make a list of the items that are actually in the barrel beforehand. No inspection takes place at the port where it's shipping from to determine that what they claim to be in the barrel is in fact in the barrel. And so when the barrel arrives in Jamaica, similarly, they cannot produce or they're not made to produce a list, a packing list of what is in the barrel. So when they claim, make a claim that this and that or the other thing is missing, unless there's a procedural breach or breakdown, or they can see where the seal of the barrel and investigation prove that the seal of the barrel was broken outside of their presence, or some other evidential matter that can support their assertion that somebody breached the security of the barrel, then it becomes a difficult issue to prove. And I am guessing that the authorities at Customs would find it challenging to simply repay somebody by virtue of a declaration. It would have to be a matter that would, I am pretty sure you'd have to be able to prove that you shipped these items or somebody shipped it and that somehow the security of the item or the barrel, the container, was breached. So I would prefer to go to Customs myself, or anybody can, and put that question to them. But I know that there is a complaints procedure, and there's a procedure that you can engage in furtherance of, your complaint that something is missing or has gone missing out of your barrel.
Okay. Let me just quickly add to that. Items shipped without cargo insurance are being shipped at the owner's risk. So that's the first instance, which is why oftentimes it's very difficult to get settlement from either Customs or the port operators. What sometimes happens is that the excitement of the receiver, the goods are checked by the Jamaica Customs Agency representative, and what the receiver should be doing at the port is packing back the items in their boxes or barrels, ensure that it is protected, then move to pay whatever customs duties or taxes that are charged. Sometime in their excitement, they leave the items on the counter to get in line, to pay quickly to get out, and then persons passing could actually remove something. What we do here is that we say to our customers, take an additional seal with you to the port, that when you have done the inspection with the customs department, your consignee is able to lock that seal. So my office in Kingston and Montego Bay, for instance, will give our consignee a seal if the consignment is a barrel, so that they can seal it. So we don't have that problem. We don't use padlocks, we use tamper-proof seals. So we really don't get customers coming back to say items are missing. The other thing too is that oftentimes the shippers intended to purchase an item, didn't get the item, but still inform the consignees that this was shipped. So when they get home and do not find the items, they are suggesting, the allegation is that it was stolen. When my customers come to me with that information, I inform them that they can go back to the port and have the ports provide them with the video, because the port is fully protected now with CCTV system, which will show that nobody went near their consignment to remove the items. But one of the things you must do is to make a disclaimer on the documentation to every customer who does not wish to take insurance protection, that the goods are shipped at their risk, and if items are misplaced, stolen, or damaged, they do so at their risk.
May I also take the opportunity? May I also, Kevin, take the opportunity to say before we wrap up that this has been a very valuable experience, this very webinar, this exchange, and I'm just hopeful that more persons will be able to have access to the exchange afterwards. Certainly use the opportunity to seek out information from the sources directly. And by that, I mean, do not be afraid to go on customs website. Even as you engage your service providers, do not hesitate to go to the Jamaica Real Estate Board, even as you have people who provide the service of real estate development. Do not hesitate to come to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Do not hesitate to go and do your research thoroughly so that you can actually fact check anybody. So if customs is telling you something which sounds contrary to what your service provider is saying, you can actually know. You can go back to your service provider or back to customs and say, how come you tell me this? My service provider has provided me with information that is contrary to what you're saying. So planning and preparation of moving home is an extremely serious undertaking. And I just want to emphasize that nostalgia is great. We can have fun going back into time. But if we do not deal with the current realities and do the proper investigation into things. In fact, if somebody is moving from London to Birmingham, even from East to West London, or from Birmingham to Manchester, they do their research. They look up the community that they are moving to. They check out where the schools are nearby, etc. and so on. And so the same type of rigor needs to be taken when considering the Jamaica, moving to Jamaica. Take the time, do the research, come to Jamaica, visit the place. Very often it will take more than just a casual visit, because coming on holiday to Minstess will not work, because you're on holiday and you know that. And you're going back to wherever you came from in the first place. So if you haven't engaged yourself in a lived experience, it's going to be difficult to understand the various nuances and how things have changed and how things have moved on. But I think I've said enough. I think the presentations were very engaging and provided a lot of room for people to delve into. But I just want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you, including those persons who are
Thank you very much, Mr. Wicks. Really appreciate the participation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And thanks again to you and your staff within the Diaspora Affairs Department, and also to Minister Campbell as well. We look forward to our continued collaboration as we work towards deeper and more meaningful diaspora engagement. So we have come to the end, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long evening for most of us in the UK and across the globe. We're gonna see if we can close the formal program with a vote of thanks. This vote of thanks will be given by Donovan Longmore. Now, Donovan is actually in the United States, just to show the global experience that we are providing here. Donovan is the Northeast co-chair for Connecticut within the Northeast Diaspora group, and he will be given the vote of thanks. Donovan, are you ready to go? Donovan? Is Donovan on here? I can see he's on and his mic is open. Donovan, I can see your mic is open. The floor is yours.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Brown. Got you. Just want to say thank you all for coming, for all the delegates and leaders and those who are diaspora members all throughout the world. We do appreciate you for all that you guys do, for everything and all the people that in the world is seeing, and to come back home to Jamaica. We appreciate everything you do from every heart and every mind and every soul. I know you guys are worried about the situations between Russia and Ukraine, but nonetheless, let's keep our heads up. Let's pray for our nationals over there that's coming home. But again, God bless you all, and we want to continue doing these things. Thanks to IDS for the wonderful job they're doing, and they're coming back here to the United States. Yes, in Florida, Atlanta, Connecticut, New York, and all over. So we're doing so much more. And we appreciate you. May God continue to bless, always do things for Jamaica, and we're raised in. Again, God bless you all. Continue the great work, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Okay, thank you very much, Donovan, joining us all the way from the United States. As I said, this webinar, although targeted at the UK audience, is open to all the diaspora wherever you are in the world. So thank you very much for joining us, Donovan, from the Northeast of the United States. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the formal program. And we're going to close off the online streaming at this time. So what we'll do is leave the Zoom open for those who wish to remain to talk informally, to network, to find out who is here and exchange phone numbers and all the rest of it. So this is where it's you take control. I'm going to step away as the moderator. And this is your opportunity to network and to talk about anything that you found interesting.